Honorable members, shall we pray? Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic, endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, great vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of broad, where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government rests on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the effort of those who struggle this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, item 2, roll call. Item 2. Honorable members, item 2. Roll call. Table, please. The roll call.
Abaka Samuel Erickson. Abanga Abdullahi. Abdullahi Jacob Idris. Abdul Latif Dan. Abdul Salam Adams. Ablakwa Samuel Lukujeto. Abuaji George Kwame. Akwejo Nyampong. Abudulai Bazurera. Achampon Brian. Achampon Charles. Achampon Richard. Akwaku Sofa Karin Edem. Akwa Alexander Kwesi. Adam Hamza. Adam Mohammed Amin. Adam Didi. Adi Teddy Safori. Adoya Frimpong. Ejei Kwesi Boateng. Adum Frederick Obeng. Adumako Mensa Alex. Adumako Mensa Collins. Adongo Isaac. Edu Johnson Kweku. Uchumia Wosei. Afenyo Markin Alexander Kwamena. Afol Eric. Mensa Kwesi Owusu. Efriye Nana Yu. Efriye Kweku. Agalga James. Agbeve Charles. Agboja Kwame Govins. Ejepon Ken Ohene. Ejari Alexander, Ejekum Emmanuel Kwejo, Ajimai Menu Kwe, Ajimai Rawlings Zaneto, Ejenim Boating Kweku, Ahinkra Kingsley Carlos, Ahinkra Frederick Yao, Ahi Samson, Ahiafo Bernard, Eidu William Oreku, Akando Kwabna Minta, Akambre Lydia Lamisi, Achia Samuel Lata, Alauzuga Albert Akuka, Al Hassan Abdallah Idi, Al Hassan Bashir A. Fusaini, Al Hassan Lydia Seyram, Al Hassan Saibu Shuhini, Aliu Mahama Umar Farooq, Te Angela Oforiwa, among us, among Nukofi, Ameuta, Amial Tremi Kwesi, Amwa Oseibonsu, Amwa Stephen, Amwaku Andrew Siama, Amwaku Atakwesi, Ampim Thomas Nyako, Ampofu Chumesi Kwame, Chum Sapon Kweku, Andre Emmanuel Ej, Enim Ernest Yao, Enim Moses, Anodom Pre Frank, Ancient Eugene Boache, Animedu Ancient Kwame, Apa Clement Abbas, Apia J. Patricia, Apia Kubi Andy Kwame, Ama Prince Hamidu, Asamoah Vincent Opon, Asante Kwejo, Asante Boating Kweku, Asensu Boachi Francis, Esiama Kwame, Esiama Kwabna Mankwa, Esiama Eje Nanama Dokua, Asafua Vincent Eko, Atamil Samuel, Aveji James Kluge, Avoka Kletu Sapu, Ewa Ignatius Bafo, Awuni Theresa Ladi, Ayamba Ladi Ayi, Ayariga Mahama, Ayiku Benjamin Nate, Ayine Dominica Kritinga, Befi Michael Ochre, Baba Benson Tongo, Aligi Bright Batch Yelville, Bandim Azuma Bednego, Bano Patrick, Battles Sheila, Bawa Edward Abambri, Bedra Emmanuel Besi, Bettino Joseph, Blankson Alex, Boachi Henry Yadom, Boachi Yadom Patrick, Boama Patrick Yao, Boatin Akwesi Dako, Boatin Amapoma, Boatin Joseph Apia, Bobie Evans Boku, Boche Daniel, Brahima Muhammad Bawa, Bua Emmanuel Amakofi, Bukari Joseph Nipe, Chinya Amidu Shahaku, Chirajia Samson Tongumbo, Chiwete Andrew Dari, Krensola Beku, Kujo Comfort Doyo, Kujo Comfort Doyo, Kujo Joseph, Kujo Joseph, Kujo Robert Wisdom, Dafia Mapa Roxy Nelson Eche Kwame, Dalu Thomas Ada, Dapila Claire to Seidu, Daku Daniel Ohene, Daku Mensa Kwabnotre, Dauda Collins, Dawuni Abuka, Derry Ambrose, Jonobwa Alex Tete, Donko Elvis Morris, Donko Kwabna, Duka George Mreku, Eya Nana, Fojo John Intim, Forsen Castle at Primpon Joseph, Gakwe Kwame Jujoli, George Samuel Nate, Gansal Hassan Kobna, Gate Joe, Gidisu Wisdom, Gomado Yao, Gomashi Ablajifa, Jemfi Emmanuel Akwesi, John Alexander, Jan Mensa Richard, Hammond Kobna Tahir, Hansen Norte Yves, Haruna Seidu, Hayford Ophelia Mensah, Hotoje Alexander Roosevelt, Ibrahim Ahmed, Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, Ibrahim Azurera Mohammed, Idrisu Habib, Idrisu Haruna, Isifu Seidu, Jabbar John Benham, Jaja Yusuf Isaka, Jalula Stephen Pambin, Joseph Godfred Seidu, Jinapo John Abdullahi, Jinapo Samuel Abdullahi, Kini Jeffrey, Kisi Dixon Adomako, Kunedu Akwesi, Kumson Mavis Hawa, Kosa Martin Kwekwe J. Mensah, Kodo Benjamin Komla, Kum Ebenezer Kojo, Kuma John Ampuntua, Joseph Kwame, Kuyon Solomon, Kwachi Akapita Yao, Kwatin Kwekwa Jiman, Kofi Festus Ewa, Chei Mensah Bonsu Osei, Tremina Nelson, Lata Ofori, Lati Agnes Namomo, Liwal Oscar, Mahama Asieseni, Mahama Nasir Ture, Menu Adabo Francis, Mafu Emmanuel, Mafu Kofia Henkra, Mbomba Thomas, Mensah Betty Nanefua Crosby, Francisca Otain, Mensah Isaac J, Mensah Joseph Kwesi, Mensah Tina Gifty Naele, Mensah Andrew Kofi Japa, Morrison Cynthia Mamle, Muntaka Muhammad, Musa Abdulaziz Ayaba, Nanja Sanja, Napari Dominic, Nawani Mark Kurt, Newman Dakwan, Niti Wudunga Maduna, Inkansa Bwedu Mavis, Nokoi Kofi Ako, Nordness Henry, Notuko Toi Peter Kwesi, in Team Adelaide, in Team Augustine Collins, in Tosu Helen Ajua, Nyakote Albert Tet, Nyaku Bismarck Tete, Nyaku Kingsley, Nyaku Kwame Naminta, Obintechi George Kwap, Obin Boating Alfred, Oklu Linda Ohinewa Akwele, Odampton Isaac Ashai, Fosio Jari Elizabeth, Okofu Date Williams, Ochri Ejekum Kofi, Opoku Davis Ansa, Opoku Eric, Opoku Isaac Yao, Opon Kroma Kojo, Osei John Frimpong. Osei Kennedy Nyako. Osei Asari Abena. Osei Wusu Joseph. Oti John Kwabna Bless. Otutai Christian Kolete. Owusubio Benito. Owusu Esla. Peito Desmond de Graft. Pelpo Abdul Rashid Hassan. Prempe Frida Kosia. Prempe Matthew Opoku. Kwate Henry. St. James Jechi. Ramadan Muhammad. Ricky Tegan George Kweku. Safu Sarah Ajwa. Sandari Saniso. Sani Suleiman Adamu. Sani John Kobna Abam Aboa. Soya Queen Samami Pokua. Sefer Rame. Setre Benjamin Yeboa. Sosu Francis Xavier Kojo. Sowa Dela Ajwa. Sowa Rita Nao Dole. Suparu Adams Mohammed. Sulemana Adama. Sulemana Ahassan Tampuli. Sulemana Yusuf. Suma Anthony Mpakara. Tahidu Abdul Razak. Teria Augustine. Tel Abi Ebenezer Oklite. Tete Joyce. Tete Sylvester. Tete Agbotri Gisela. Tete Joseph Akwete. Toffee Dockers. Tobu Anshini. Mohammed Hardy. Chum Ampofu Gifty. Berima Paul Apreku. Yusuf Mustafa. Vanderpoy Alfred Oko. Vanderpoy Edwin Nilante. Vondi David. Wakpal Daniel Insala. Reku Brobe Bright. Woyome Kobna Mensa. Zeden Bid and Watazumo.
Thank you so much, table. Honorable members, let's now turn to item 5. Item 5, which is and proceedings corrections. Item 5, rules and proceedings corrections. We start from page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 5. Page 6. Page number 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page number 10. Page 11. Yes, Honorable Member for Kwadaso.
Honorable Speaker, on page 11, item 7, the third line, not more than 1 year. Not more than 1 year, but here it's captured not more than 1 year. So we should cancel or delete the S.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Table, please take note. To page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Honorable Ayalga, are you up on your feet? Page 17. Yes, Honorable Professor Nyako Kwadaso.
On page 16, item 18, under composition of the counseling.
Will you come again?
I'm saying on page 16, item 18, of the counseling panel. B, a representative of the Ghana Christian Council with at least 10 years of practice. At least is missing. Here it is captured Ghana Christian Council with at 10, so it should be at least of practice as a clergyman. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Honorable Member. Table, kindly take note of the correction. Let's turn to 17. Yes, Honorable Dafiamapo.
Yes, Speaker. In as much as I agree that my brother is drawing attention to the present amendment as captured in the rules and proceedings, this was how it was filed by the proposer of the amendment. So the correction was not carried yesterday. So because it was not carried, I think I would be wrong for us to be correcting what was originally corrected. It was not carried. There was a mistake in it. And if the House had carried the amendment, they would have done further amendment to correct it. But because the amendment was withdrawn as advertised, I think that this was how advertised yesterday, my brother. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with him much, but my thinking is that this is a record document for the House, and if it is not captured properly, it wouldn't make sense. So I don't think that the correction is wrong. It will make the sentence meaningful. If you leave it this way, and somebody picks the hands out, it wouldn't work for us. Thank you.
Yes.
Speaker, I hold in my hand the order paper for Wednesday, 21st February 2024. The present item that my brother from Kwadaso intends to amend. The originally
Is he amending or is correcting?
is correcting. That is the amendment. The originally advertised amendment reads as follows. Mr. Speaker, with your leave, let me read. In particular reference to the item he intends to correct, a representative of the Ghana Bar Association with at least 10 years at the bar. So this was the advertised amendment. And because it was withdrawn, the House didn't get opportunity to further amend by correcting it by adding practice. That is why I think that the votes and proceedings reflect businesses and activities as they truly occurred in the House previously. That's the government of my argument.
Maybe my very good friend, Honorable Dafimapo, didn't follow me well. The at least you read is not captured in the votes here. The at least that is captured on the other paper is not captured on the votes and proceedings. So there's an omission that has to be inserted here. If I read what I'm holding, the bill, a representative of the Ghana Christian Council with at 10 years, at this. The list is omitted. If you include the list, then at least 10 at 10. That is the gravitas of my position.
Honorable members, I think you are right, and Honorable Dafiamapo is also right. So I direct that table make the necessary corrections, because the corrections should have been made yesterday. If what Honorable Dafiamapo is saying, the correction should have been carried yesterday. So table, I direct that you effect that corrections. So let's move on to page 18. Page 19. Page 20. Yes, Honorable.
Speaker, page 20, item number 27 overlaps from page 19 to 20. Mr. Speaker, on page 20, the amendment as advertised standing in the name of the Honorable Member for Akachi South, Bernard Ahiafo, was by my good self, but I propose a further amendment to it which was carried. So the rendition should be that the presently carried amendment should stand in our both names.
In whose name?
In my name as well as the name of the Honorable Bernard Ahiafo. But it reads that amendment was read on behalf of Mr. Bernard Ahiafo. But my point is that because I propose a further amendment, the practice is that once a member proposes a further amendment to an advertised amendment, which gets carried, the originally advertised amendment then now belongs to both members, both the originator as well as the person who proposed a further amendment. That is, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member for Dominic Abenya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think I disagree with Honorable Member on the other side. I think the way it's captured is the way it should be in the votes and proceedings.
Yes.
What he's talking about the details of his further amendment would be captured in the official report of yesterday.
Yes.
So I think that it should stand the way it is in the votes and proceedings. Thank you.
Very well. Yes.
Speaker, this is a matter of procedure. The originally advertised amendment stood in the name of the Honorable Member for Akachi South. And I got his leave, I wishes to seek Speaker's leave to move the amendment on his behalf. Now, I did that. And this is what this reflects.
Yes.
But my position is that where an advertised amendment received a further amendment by another member, and that further amendment gets
adopted,
carried by the House, then the newly further amendment will now stand in the name of both the original person and the second person who preferred further amendment to it. That is the practice.
I think that's exactly what Honorable Adjasafo has said. Honorable Member, because you did that for and on behalf of Honorable Ahiafo on the original amendment, and you, after that one, you also proposed a further amendment. And like Honorable Adjasafo just said, that one will be carried in your official report. This is just what took place. So just take note that your further amendment will be carried on the official report.
Mr. Speaker, the official report will indicate the transaction in respect of commentary. But the votes and proceedings as captured by table office, they know. What the way it is captured is simply the note. I moved the amendment on his behalf and it got carried.
So you just wanted it that you also proposed further amendment?
Yes, this is the House of Records. So it must reflect that. And the only way it can reflect that is to add my name to the sponsor of the amendment. That is how that's how we do it. Senior, you've been away for some time. That's how we do it.
Honorable, when you were doing that, did you indicate that you were making further proposed amendment, or you were just correcting certain?
No, indeed, yes. The originally advertised amendment reads this: with your leave, unless it is proved that a principal officer A did not consent to or connive at commission of the offense, exercise the degree of reasonable diligence as ought in the circumstances to have been exercised when the commission of the offense. This was the originally advertised amendment.
My question is, did you indicate that you were doing that by yourself, or you were doing that for Honorable Ahiafo?
Mr. Speaker, I couldn't have proposed a further amendment on behalf of Ahiafo because he has advertised his amendment. The procedure is that the amendment as advertised will be moved in the name of the member if the House decides. Then if the amendment is moved, it is subject to consideration of the. So if any member of the House decides to propose a further amendment, then it is moved. If the House agrees to it, then it is carried. So the originally advertised amendment now do not reflect in total the true amendment as advertised. It has been amended by a further amendment proposed by other members. Mr. Speaker, I will litigate this matter further. Let's make progress.
Yes, Honorable Ajua.
Mr. Speaker, as earlier, I earlier stated that those details will go in the votes and proceedings. But I also want to put on record that I know Honorable Dafiamavo said it in passing or on a lighter note. But he should remember that 22 years at the bar, and he should remember that I'm senior to him in this house. So to say you've been away doesn't mean a lawyer goes away, doesn't mean the law goes away from her head. And I believe that he said that lightly. But Mr. Speaker, back to the point. He earlier said that he had the permission of the original move of that amendment.
Yes.
So standing on that permission, anything you do in that respect concerning that amendment still stands in the name of that honorable member and not you. So the details about you doing a further amendment to it and it being carried by the House, Mr. Speaker, would be all those details would be contained in the official report. But for the vote and proceedings and per the practice of this House, it should stand in the original member who filed those amendments to that clause. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honorable Dafiamavo, I think I will rule.
May I seek your leave to withdraw the amendment?
Very well.
It was on a very lighter note.
Very well.
I apologize. No malice intended. I apologize.
Thank you. Very well. So we'll move on to 21. Yes, honorable member for Kwadaso.
On page 22, item 32, clause 19. Under marriage, the definition. Marriage means a customary law union, a union, be ordinance. I think that the preposition it was omitted. So it should be a union, be it ordinance. Be it ordinance and not be ordinance.
Very well. Table, can you take note of that? Yes, Honorable Member Savdai.
Mr. Speaker, I think we must be very, very careful. This amendment was what the Honorable George moved, and it got carried by the House. But it was pointed to the drafters that there was an issue with syntax. That is, there's an omission, internal structures. So they will do that. They will do that because.
You mean the drafters?
Yes, they've been directed to take care of those minor omissions. We can amend something that was not dealt with in the House. The amendment originally advertised is this. If we are amending, it means we are amending an advertised amendment which did not carry the word that. Mr. Speaker, we are supposed to amend. We are supposed to amend records of the House as it happened yesterday.
Yes.
But these are advertised amendments as it was carried by the House. So those omissions will be done by the table office. It's not the fault of table office that when they were printing this, they intentionally omitted it. It was not advertised as is being suggested by my brother.
Well, honorable member. So honorable member for Kwadaso, don't worry. I will direct the table as well as the drafter to look at it and do the writing.
Well noted.
So, honorable member for Kwadaso, thank you. So let's turn finally to page 24. Yes.
Speaker, before we go to page 24, page 23, the content of motion number 11. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the originally submitted report from the Committee of Selection was amended whilst it was being presented. So I think that amendment must reflect that this Honorable House adopts the amended report of the Committee of Selection on the composition of the membership of the Appointments Committee. Because when the originally composed committee was, as contained what was late, there were issues regarding the membership and all. And the House, with the leave of the House, the chairman of the committee or the mover of the motion sought leave to amend by deleting and substituting new names. So it's important that reflects in this report.
Honorable, don't you think that one will have to appear on the official report?
No.
That is my understanding. That's the way it's supposed to be. The official report will carry all the corrections and the new names that has been inserted. So that is the way I understand it. So, honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of 12 sitting happened yesterday, the 21st February 2024, is hereby adopted as the true records of proceedings. Honorable members, honorable member for Krote, do you have something?
Yes, right, Honourable Speaker. I just seek your lead to raise an issue of urgent public importance regarding the Odo in my Mr. Speaker, I'm just seeking your lead to raise a matter of urgent public interest in my constituency.
Very well. Let me acknowledge the presence of our children from Presec Staff 3 Basic School at the Public Gallery. Presec Staff 3 Basic School. They are being led by Judith Ampofua-Dazi, who is the head teacher, and the school is located at Medina constituency. Medina constituency. Do you have the member here? No, the member is not here. So, our children from Staff 3 Basic School, you are welcome. We wish. I hope you are studying what is going on in the chamber. So study it well, with the belief that one day you also be here. So you are welcome once again. Yes, now, Honorable Senator Ajama Lawrence, let me hear your urgent issue.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. As you're aware, the constituency President Klote Koli has the Odo River that runs through it, and unfortunately, the Odo has been silted up and has not been dredged in recent times. Mr. Speaker, the level that it has reached at the moment, should we have one episode of rainfall, we're going to suffer a huge amount of damage and loss of life. This is an issue that has been recurring, and the Works and Housing Ministry has reassured us consistently of the work being done. Unfortunately, the level of the silt in the Odo is so high that cattle and chickens are walking on the water. It's not a miracle, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, I would really urge the Speaker to kindly put a bit more pressure on the Works and Housing Ministry to really expedite the desilting of this channel before the rains begin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'll come to you. Let me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a very important issue, and I just want to urge that as a government, we should not behave like the vulture. Anytime it's raining, the vulture thinks that tomorrow morning is going to build out a house. Immediately the rain sets, the rain is finished, that's the end of it. So as a government, we should prepare for the rains. We shouldn't wait for the rain to set before we organize the cameras and move to the scene to prove, show to the world that I think we are going to do it. Come on, the city, you can't do it. Ordinarily, set the certain. Do it. You have run this economy to the extent that you can't even set gutters. This is a serious matter. So, Mr. Speaker, what the honourable member has said is a serious issue. We'll sit here and joke with it. Tomorrow, when it flies and people die, all of you will mobilize and go to their family and console them, go and get some petty items and give to the family. Let's be serious in this country. Come on, the certain. This government cannot do the certain. Why are you in government? What are you doing in government? If you can't decide if you can't decide what are you in government for? So, Mr. Speaker, at the right time, and I pray that you give appropriate directives. I think that we should invite the Works and Housing Minister to appear before this House next week and then tell us the plans he has to address perennial flooding in Accra. Don't let us wait till we die in the gutters before we try and do something. So I want to support the call, but it is sad that today we have a government who cannot even do the settle. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me come to
Most grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for
You are senior. You senior.
Subing.
Yes. Most grateful, Mr. Speaker. I wish to correct the impression being created by the former Deputy Minister for Works and Housing. First of all the major national disasters that have taken place in this country happened under the NDC tenure.
Yes, yes.
Number one, circle, they were flooding circle, NDC. Number two, Hachu. I'm on the speakers, please sit. No, speaker, let me go on. Now, upon the assumption of office of the Kufuor administration, His Excellency the President, Nana Kufuor, gave the Ministry of Works and Housing 200 million Ghana cedis, unprecedented in the history of this country. 200 cedis towards 200 cedis towards the certain.
Honorable members, you will have your turn. Please, let's listen to him. Once you have anything to say, I'll give you the opportunity to also talk. Please, let's listen to.
I sat
yes,
here
honorable.
Listen to the honorable member as well as our interventions. I didn't say a word. Why are you trying to interrupt me? Am I not allowed to put the record straight? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, that was in 2018. In 2020, the Ministry of Works and Housing was allocated a whopping amount of 250 million. So for administration alone, a whopping amount of 250 million.
It's been used.
I'll show you what the projects are. You can continue to heckle. I'll wait for you to heckle and I'll continue. So continue to heckle.
Honorable member, address me, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, who's confused? Mr. Speaker, major interventions like the Garba Lodge. Last time to him, listen to me. Garba Lodge, that major drain, Garba Lodge, in Tamale, your constituency. Go and look at it. If you don't know, I'm showing one of the key examples in your region. Garba Lodge, the major drain beyond Garba Lodge. That was created by the Kufuor administration. No, Garba Lodge, the hotel. That hotel, Garba Lodge. I know what I'm talking about. The hotel, Garba Lodge Hotel. Is it the constituency? Sit down. I'll give you a list of them. Mr. Speaker, go to Volta region. I'm talking about national disasters. I'm talking about my record in the ministry. Please.
Honorable member, just it's good. You are giving the national overview, but just focus on this eminent order that is talking
for the
about.
honorable member's attention, although it's very unfortunate because we were advised at the time by a former engineer of the ministry, Engineer Wise Ametepe, I think that was his name, that in addressing the overflooding around the circle area, the Mahama administration failed to take note of two things. One was, give me about Odo. I'm explaining. Let me explain.
Oh, let him give you the facts.
Let me give you the facts. Odo, what happened in Circle, the so-called Dubai project in around the Circle area? That project should have dealt with two main issues. According to a resident engineer, Wise Ametepe, he said, number one, we should address the vehicular traffic as well as the overflooding. We were focused on the vehicular traffic as opposed to overflooding. That is what precipitated, or that's what has been precipitated this perennial overflooding around the circle area. So at that time, a company had drawn to the tune of $65 million. A Ghanaian company had dredged the door for 65 under the tenure of the NDC. All these bills have been paid by the Kufuor administration. So, Mr. Speaker, when members come here and they want to deal with facts, they should deal with facts. If they want to come here and do propaganda, we are ready to, put the record straight. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Yes, let me give you to Honorable Eric Opoku.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the call is for this House to ensure that the Ministry of Works and Housing prepare adequately against the rain season. We are all aware of what normally happens during the rain season. And I think it's important that, as being representatives of the people, we cause the ministry to prepare adequately towards that. Mr. Speaker, you recall that not long ago, while this House was approving the 2024 budget, we were informed in this House that the total allocation that was approved for the Ministry of Works and Housing, as at the time we are approving the new budget, 20% had been released to them. And so, Mr. Speaker, under such circumstances, how can the ministry execute its outlined programs? These are some of the challenges. And Mr. Speaker, it is important for this House to note that the World Bank provided $200 million to support the beautification of Accra. And Mr. Speaker, we were told at the vetting committee that $43 million out of that was meant for us to distill the odor. Mr. Speaker, the minister herself appeared before the committee, and the appointment committee provided the details relating to how they were going to utilize the $200 million. Mr. Speaker, how have they $43 million meant for the distilling of the Odor River? And surprisingly, our brother is up there trying to defend the indefensible. Mr. Speaker, they are unable to account for the $43 million. They cannot. And so if you are not seized with the information, you don't come to the House just to make noise. Bring those people who have the information to come and defend it. We are only asking for us to prepare against what normally happens in this country. And it's a simple call that every one of us must be concerned so that we can get the ministry to do the right thing.
And you are crying.
Small preparation to your crying. Mr. Speaker, I support the call from our colleague. It is in the right direction, and we expect you, Mr. Speaker, to direct the Ministry of Works and Housing to put in place, to appear before this House, to come and furnish this information with their preparations towards the coming season. It is very, very important, and we must ensure that it is. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Honorable Member for Subi, you have any clarification? Yes, let me. Honorable Suhini, please withdraw that. Suhini, no. Suhini.
Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable minister has been given the opportunity. The former has been given the opportunity. The former minister is here. If there is anything, let's hear from the former minister.
Honorable members, please allow me to control the House. I know what I'm doing. Please. Honorable Suhini, resume your seat. Resume your seat. Let me come to honorable member for Bokanko Central.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. This House is governed by rules we all brought into being. Mr. Speaker, Order 93 deals with statement by a member, and the rules enjoins members not to make comments that will provoke debate. This is a very simple call from our colleague from Clote Koli. cascade for measures to be put in place to forestall any flooding in the country. Our colleague from Bodi raised issues that has generated this unnecessary debate, Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, let's be guided by the rules. If we see such a simple statement or request from a colleague and start raising issues about figures, $43 million, $200 million, we don't have the facts. As members of Parliament, we are sending a wrong message to the public that we don't even know the processes to unravel issues when they arise. Are we telling the public that we don't have the necessary oversight over the Works and Housing Ministry for us to be able to find out where the 43 million or 200 million or 65 million was used? Is that what we are telling the public? We have to be very serious, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Let me come to Honourable Member for Tamale.
Thank you very much. Right Honourable Speaker, I wish to agree.
Leader, I'll come to you.
I wish to agree with calls that have been made to you to summon the Minister for Water Resources, Works and Housing to this House next week to address the concerns that have been raised by Honorable Dr. Zanato as the Odo Lagoon or river or lake, depending on the time of the season, remains a threat to lives and property in that area. The Speaker, but of concern is the fact that it is not the only drain that has been left unattended across the country. And I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, that the former Deputy Minister of Works and Housing made reference to a very notable drain that runs through almost all the constituencies in the Greater Tamale, because it is along the Third Ring Road. And so through the constituencies, we all have the effect of that drain when it is not properly managed or desilted before the rainy season. Mr. Speaker, in 2017, that drain, as a result of its flooding, because it was not properly desilted, claimed the life of a very promising teacher, Hajia Fati. In fact, the Vice President, now candidate of the New Patriotic Party, attended the funeral because he said, Mr. Speaker, that the lady was his classmate and that he was touched by. Mr. Speaker, he took the opportunity at the funeral to assure the people that drain was going to be taken care of and it will be improved so that sanitation and other life and property will be saved during the rainy season. And I'm talking specifically about that Garba Lodge drain. Mr. Speaker, the drain, like I said, cuts across all the 3 or 4 constituencies in Tamale, the Greater Tamale. So it is more than 13 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, what the minister, the former deputy minister was speaking about, when work started, they did less than 200 meters. Not even up to a kilometer, less than 200 meters. And still, the people who live along that drain complain every time because their lives remain at risk, especially when we are approaching the rainy season. So, Mr. Speaker, I agree with calls that the minister must be brought here to tell us the preparations they are making as we approach the rainy season as far as these drains are concerned. But to boast about doing less than 300 kilometers of a drain that cuts across all the constituencies in Tamale, which more than 20 kilometers is just empty boast, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one and one, and because it's just a simple invitation just to draw attention, and I'm happy to see the new housing minister. at least he can
Mr. Speaker.
So, Honorable Adjoa Safo, let's hear you.
Mr. Speaker, I think that the House is gradually losing focus of the purpose for which my sister on the other side, Dr. Zanet, raised the matter. Mr. Speaker, Order 93.4, when such a matter is being raised and it's of a personal nature, Mr. Speaker, you can allow it if it's urgent. But my emphasis is on 93.4. Such a statement other than a personal statement, may be commented upon. Mr. Speaker, my emphasis is commented upon. Our sister raised a very crucial and urgent matter in her constituency. Mr. Speaker, when she was concluding, her statement, which I captured clearly, was that she was urging on you and your honorable office to urge on the minister or the ministry in charge of that sector to act accordingly, Mr. Speaker. But the way we're going on about it, others are even introducing their own bridges into the debate. And we are provoking debate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a house of law, rules. The honorable member came under an urgent statement. If another member is interested, you can come by a statement and read on the floor, and we can all debate it. Mr. Speaker, you have the power enclosed in you to also call the minister responsible for that sector, and I'm sure he just walked in, designate, but he's already a minister, so he doesn't have to go through vetting to do it. But Mr. Speaker, before I end, let's debate it. Let us know what our rules say. We can comment. No, I'm drawing Mr. Speaker's attention to the rules of this House, which we adopted ourselves. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm humbly praying on your that what the honourable member is asked to do, you will do same for her. But also to draw your attention to the fact that the issue Dr. Zaneto raised, although it is with dredging of a bridge and there's a river passing under it and all that, I think that you should do a cross-referencing also to the Ministry of Sanitation as well, because it has other sanitary issues that crop up out of that. So that when the ministers come into this house to brief us, they are briefing us holistically, giving us the right figures, giving us the right information, and not for us to speculate and propagate here and provoke debate when there's a crucial matter in my sister's constituency that needs urgent attention. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Leadership. Okay, Honorable former leader, you want to say something? Okay, leader.
Mr. Speaker, the matter before us is an important matter. Mr. Speaker, I recognize that the standing order may point that members may comment, or the Speaker may allow members comment on the matter. Mr. Speaker, Odo River is Ghana's, if I may put it this way, River Thames. It is a river that's extremely important to Accra. And today, Mr. Speaker, we know that the river is choked. And the Member of Parliament representing that constituency has brought the matter before us. Mr. Speaker, information also before us here in Parliament is that this government not long ago spent $43 million to distill this same river. Mr. Speaker, $43 million. If you are to convert it into Ghana cedis, 516 million Ghana cedis to distill the same river. Mr. Speaker, and if today that river is choked, we should be concerned about it. We should be concerned about it. And it is right. It is only right for the honorable colleague to bring it before us. So, Mr. Speaker, we urge you to urge the new minister responsible for works and housing to bring us a plan to get Odo River properly. Mr. Speaker, a government that cannot distill even gutters is a... Our gutters are choked, and we know that today the budget that was made before us, we don't have adequate resources allocated for the ministry to distill these waters, and the waters are all choked, including Odo River. So, Speaker, 560 million Ghana cedis already gone, and yet they're choked. So I urge you, Honorable Minister, you may have just gone to the ministry. Please come back and brief us properly, because we need Odo River properly distilled. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Fortunately, we have the minister sector newly reshuffled minister, Honorable Kojo Oponkoma. I was going to direct that you come and brief the House next week with respect to Odo River and probably other drains that we have across the country. So, if you can tell us something and come back properly to address. So, if you can assure us something and probably come back to the House to address the issues regarding drains in Ghana. So, yes, Kojo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to make a quick reaction to the comments going on the floor. I've just returned.
Honorable members, please. I said he has been reshuffled. He has been reassigned to. Honorable, don't test. Honorable Dafiamapo, you've not caught my eye. Honorable Motara, you've not caught my eye. Resume your seat. Honorable, resume your seat. I'm looking at you, yet I haven't caught your eye. So, Honorable Member for Ofuase IAB, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this morning I've just had a meeting with the head of the Ghana Hydrological Authority. Just before coming here, because I'm going through a series of briefings, and the subject of dredging of some of the major waterways is one that came. I've also agreed with the Honourable Member of Parliament that on Monday, and myself will visit, as she has drawn into, as part of the information I'm gathering on it, and I'll appear before this House to give an update on what we intend to do about it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very, very much. So, Honorable Member, when do you think will be appropriate for you to come to the House? I just want to give you the leeway. Give us a time that you will come to the House and address the issue of Odo and other drains in the country.
So, Mr. Speaker, if you give me 2 weeks, I'll be in the House to provide a comprehensive response to this.
I grant that to you. Honorable Dafiamapo, don't bring this argument.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Dafiamapo, I haven't called you.
I thank you for the opportunity.
I haven't called you.
Capacity.
Yes, honorable leaders, let me come to you for direction.
Speaker, I think we'll just follow the order of business and now we are statement. If you have any statement admitted. Statement, Speaker. Statement.
Statement. I don't have any statement. I just received
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I admitted one statement yesterday. Because I could not be at the pre-sitting meeting, I did not bring it to your attention. I'm having it brought to you. The honorable member for Tamale North, is that right? Tamale North brought a statement which I'm sure is available to read.
Well.
Thank you.
Yes, honorable.
Mr. Speaker, whilst our first deputy speaker was away, I also forwarded a statement to you on behalf of Honorable Gisela Tete. If you kindly add that to the list of statements.
Well. Honorable members, we have to have two statements. The first one is from our brother, Honorable Suhini, a member for Tamale North, and his statement is about empowering rural communities to help their pre-school children drive. So, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to make this statement on a crucial topic that requires our attention and action. Quote, empowering rural communities to help their preschool children thrive, unquote. The global early childhood education crisis, Mr. Speaker, and over 250 million children under 5, most of whom are located in rural communities in the global south, do not have access to adequate education and care, leading to poor health, poor education, child marriage, lost life opportunities, and poverty. Representatives of our nation, it is our duty to ensure that every child, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to reach their full potential. In 2008, the country included 2 years of pre-primary education, kindergarten, as part of its constitutional commitment to free and compulsory universal basic education. And as part of strengthening the early childhood education subsystem, the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service facilitated the approval of the ECE framework and endorsed by Cabinet in 2020. Mr. Speaker, this was to prepare children in readiness for primary school and to develop holistically their physical, social, emotional, and intellectual needs in order to build a broad and solid foundation for their well-being. Mr. Speaker, it is expected that the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service will have things to ensure that KG spaces are available for all KG children in Ghana, engage families and communities to provide learning opportunities at home to support children's school readiness, and to, through strategic collaboration with key stakeholders, ensure that the early childhood education policy framework across the country to impact positively, develop holistically every 4 and 5-year-old child in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, it is not a secret that due to budgetary constraints and others, education at all levels and in most parts of the country is bedeviled by means. However, it is worse and unique in rural communities, especially when it comes to early childhood education. Limited access to quality preschool spaces and programs, lack of resources, and poverty all hinder the rural child's development during these critical years. Mr. Speaker, I dare say many of us in this House acknowledge the weakness in our own education and language, because we either didn't attend KG and thus went to school beyond ages 4 and 5. We therefore are amazed at the knowledge of our 5-year-old children who are receiving quality early childhood education. Sometimes we know at their age we discovered very late in our education life. Mr. Speaker, less privileged children, in especially rural communities, also deserve the quality early childhood education that we give our children. I firmly believe that by empowering our rural communities, we can make a significant impact on the future of our nation. One way to empower rural communities is by providing them with the necessary resources and support to establish high-quality preschool programs. By investing in early childhood education, we can help children develop essential skills that will set them up for success in school and beyond. Another important aspect of empowering rural communities is involving parents and caregivers in their children's education. By providing training and support to parents, we can that they have the knowledge and tools to create a nurturing and stimulating environment for their children at home. Mr. Speaker, this is where I wish to introduce to members and commend highly the efforts of an organization, Lively Minds, an NGO doing amazing work in about 2,224 rural communities in Ghana to promote early childhood education. Mr. Speaker, we have some of their leaders in the gallery today to witness our discussion of this topic. Their approach aims to shift the mindset and behaviors of parents so that despite their poverty and limited education, they have the power and the means to make a change. 93% of parents in their program have less than 2 years of primary education. I have had the opportunity to visit some of their operational areas. Community volunteers are not paid for their work on the program, nor are they provided with materials or infrastructure, but their dedication to bring about significant and wide-ranging improvements in their children's development is simply admirable, Mr. Speaker. They use basic teaching learning materials created by themselves, using materials mostly picked from their environment. I am convinced that it is crucial for our government to continue to collaborate with local organizations such as Lively Minds and community leaders to address the specific education needs of our rural communities. By working together, implement targeted interventions that will benefit both children and their families. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, empower our communities to help their preschool children thrive is not just a moral imperative. It is also an investment in the future of our. By working together and taking decisive action, we can ensure that every child has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Let us not turn a blind eye to the challenges faced by rural communities, but instead, let us stand united in our commitment to creating a brighter future for all. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, to Pusuga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by my colleague on the need for involvement, care, support, and all the necessary additives to promote early childhood education. Mr. Speaker, this is an aspect that has suffered in education for long. Unfortunately, up until now, it is still a very difficult situation, especially when you get to the rural communities. Listening to what he has said, we need to note that childhood education goes to enhance the learning of every child, and it enhances the developmental aspects of every human being if you are fortunate to undergo early childhood, because there are a lot of things that some of us have missed, but we wouldn't want our children to miss that. Mr. Speaker, if you go to the rural communities, and I would use my own constituency as an example, I can assure you that early childhood, you better don't even talk about it. Because even if it is existent in a school, there is no care. It is that the school thinks that most probably there are children who are not up to going into basic class 1 and have decided a space, maybe a tree, just under a tree, and get another grown-up child to take care under the tree without anything, without any support. Mr. Speaker, it is an eyesore that you go to see these children sitting on the ground, just the floor, bare floor, with nothing, and saying they are in school. Meanwhile, they go back with the fact that they have gone to school, and that, as popularly called, day nursery. Mr. Speaker, I wish to urge all governments, now and future, all ministers, and we here, to ensure that we support the enhancement of everything that is for early childhood development. Infrastructure is key, very important. I know it is difficult, but it is important. Let us continue from where or from what we have now. And let me, I am not saying all schools in Ghana, but especially the rural communities. Mr. Speaker, these are kids who actually need professional teachers, professional, trained teachers. Not just go and say, oh, who is a volunteer that can come from the community and help us take care of these little ones, which then across most of our rural communities. They need professional teachers. And so I will urge the Ghana Education Service to continue. I know some time ago, they were giving some kind of training to some teachers, but it should now cut across. We have professional teachers who will do that. There is a need for teaching learning materials. These are a special group of children, and the TLMs that are supposed to be used are not just what is used by anybody at all. We need what will unearth their potential. So the GES should make a conscious effort to ensure that we have teaching learning materials for those people. Mr. Speaker, another issue that needs to be looked at carefully is advocacy. We need that advocacy to let both those in the rural communities, parents, all stakeholders, to understand the need for the early childhood education for our children. And so we just say once the school is in place, we can have a day nursery, and when the children are there, we are okay. Mr. There is an issue some time ago, I don't know if now they have properly incorporated it. Even the school feeding, when it started, at some stage we realized that the day nurseries were not included. It's just that some head teachers made conscious effort to make the day nurseries be part of it, because they really need it. And I want to add that if up until now the day nurseries are not included, or those childhood schools are not included, then they should be included, because they are really those who need to be given that kind of encouragement. Let them be in school. Mr. Speaker, with this little, I hope that the NGO, as mentioned, my colleague will come up and help many more rural communities. I wish them the best, and I hope to see them in the Upper East, especially in Pusiga. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Let me go to Salaga.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity
to make a contribution to this all-important statement made by the Honorable Member for Tamale North. I also want to join him, Honorable Alasan Suhini, to welcome the officers from Lively Minds and to commend them for their Lively Minds and to commend them for this brilliant initiative which partners the Ghana Education Service to fill the gap that existed, especially in rural communities with regards to early childhood education. I have had first-hand experience of the intervention of Lively Minds in my constituency. I paid a visit to Kafaba and they are operating in one of those in Kafaba. I'm also aware that they are operating in some more schools within the East Gonja municipality and the Salaga South constituency. I want to voice to the of the statement. Operating in 2,620 communities. And Mr. Speaker, in Achas, the intervention seems to be making progress and way in terms of enabling 4 to 5 year olds develop their cognitive senses. There is another aspect of developing and promoting early childhood education in rural communities that needs to be added in order that we can all get the full benefit of the Lively Minds project. And that has to do with infrastructure. In my constituency where they are operating, some of the schools don't have classrooms dedicated to the 4 to 5 year olds. So the parents, the guardians and the mothers who are coming to the school to assist with teaching the 5 year olds, most of them are having to operate under trees. And so I think that the Ghana Education Service has to also play its part in meeting Lively Minds along the way. So whilst they develop the potential of the teachers, they give them the training, the skills and the resources, GES and Government of Ghana, on the other hand, should ensure that the requisite infrastructure exists to house and contain these little ones who attend school. Speaker, it's a sight to behold when you visit any school that has the Lively Minds in operation. The mothers come there well-dressed, well-prepared, and ready and happy to assist with teaching their own children. In my interactions with some of them, what I gleaned was that they tend to develop how their own learning methods and use the local language as a guide to teach the children. They emphasize, Mr. Speaker, that the reason they are doing this at that age is so that the children don't end up in school at age 6 and then they get taught in the English language and then they lose their local or natural languages. And that for me is very instructive because it enables them to relate and associate everything that they teach them with what they learn at home. The parents, guardians and mothers especially who are on this
Honorable Member, allow me to see the chair to Right Honorable Speaker. But before Right Honorable Speaker takes the chair, let me acknowledge in the public gallery the executives of the NGO Lively Minds. I think their statement is on the floor. Let me acknowledge them. And let me equally acknowledge Alhaji Mohammed Harun, Elom Haliga, and Abdurrahim Mubarak. I guess we are all in the public gallery. Very well. So I will now see the chair. I have a delegation from the United States Congress, Nate regime being the leader of the delegation. So you are also at the public gallery. You are welcome. So I will now see the chair to Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Member, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the maker of the statement rightly indicated, the community that is supporting this intervention by the Lively Minds is doing this purely on a voluntary basis. What I found in my constituency is that it's mainly the women, the mothers, who tend to involve themselves in the intervention at the school. And what this means for them, doing this on a voluntary basis, is that they are keeping their own activities, income-generating activities, on the burner, waiting to take care of their children at school before they go back to their income or economic activities that they undertake. So it's important that we are able to hold this project together so that the women do not get disillusioned along the way by way of losing their personal income in their attempt to support the education of their children. So I want to encourage the leaders of our communities to address our minds to this issue and look at how we can support these women so that they can remain committed to offering the service that they are offering in the school. For my part, in one of the schools that I visited, I counted 40 women who had their domestic chores, they had left their economic activities and come to the school to teach the children. What I did was to donate 40 sewing machines to these women and encourage them to learn the trade or skill, dressmaking and tailoring, so that they can do that to supplement whatever income that they are making, to enable them continue with this beautiful intervention to bring up our children, and as the statement rightly said, they can also thrive. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
I want some guidance. How many more members do you want to be taken in this matter? And then also some time limits.
Somebody. It's okay. Speaker, we have another statement talking about two from each side. So I suggest that we can take one each, and then we'll move to the second statement. Or we can take two each. And then
there was a lot from behind you. You might not have seen them. But on my right, I didn't see any person on his feet. So when you say two, I see the Fair Deputy Speaker want to contribute. Yes. So two, and then if there's any possibility, but how many minutes? These are comments.
5 minutes.
I realized Honorable Zuwera went on a long lecture. How many minutes? 5 minutes.
5 minutes each.
5 minutes each. Will I take the liberty to allow the backbenchers to start? Good. So the one behind you, Honorable, are you a backbencher? No, unfortunately, you caught my ear, not my eye. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to comment on the statement ably made by my colleague MP on the impact of the Lively Minds project. Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity to join the team that went on the program to support our community leaders, our parents are doing to support education in the rural setting, and also how we can incorporate our mothers in the formal educational system. And I was really, really impressed by the advances made. Mr. Speaker, the paragraph 4 of the statement threw light on key issues that attract our attention as a people, to ensuring that all the lofty ideas and frameworks, educational policy frameworks that we have developed for this country do not become terminal with changes in government, do not become terminal with changes in just leadership in the educational sector, but these must find expression in our strategic national education programs, such that it should not matter which government is in charge. The concern and the real need for the end of our children, especially at the formative stages in the KG and the lower primary sector education system, must be taken care of. Honorable Speaker, the maker of the statement rightly asked that government, through the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service, must ensure we have adequate space, school infrastructure for our kindergarten level. Because what we have seen under the Lively Minds project is one that will require adequate space for parents who volunteer to support the teaching staff, early childhood school systems, to really give off their best. Being a teacher, I recall that one key vocabulary that rhymes in every training school or every teacher is the need for improvisation. The need to improvise in getting your teaching learning materials to make your teaching effective and one that is reflective of the local condition. Mr. Speaker, if we look at the kind of teaching interventions that these parents through the Lively Minds projects are making, it goes to lend credence to the fact that when we learn to improvise, our children learn from the simple to the concrete. They will learn the things that are common before they go into the complex things. And that definitely would help them in how they assimilate and consolidate what they know. We have seen many children who go through the rote learning because they learn is detached from them. What they go through in the school curriculum becomes just theory and something that they cannot identify with. But the program through the Lively Mind is actually bringing local teaching materials and even the local language. And that's the beauty of it, that the children now find expression in their own local language as they develop their numeracy and literacy skills at that lower level. Again, Mr. Speaker, the concept itself appears to engraved on participation of parents and communities. And I'm sad to note in recent times that the involvement of parents in school administration has been dampened or almost eliminated in our education system. And that can be very dangerous. It can be dangerous in the sense that it's against this localization of teaching materials. It also fights against the real support that communities must give to their children in their respective schools. We know that in the Western world, most children in public schools are compelled to attend schools within their local community. What that does is that it encourages parents to contribute meaningfully to the community schools, so that whatever the school needs, once the parents living in that neighborhood are aware that they ought to contribute, localizing what they do supports the school better than what we see in our part of the world. So I want to call attention to the segregation or removal of parent-teacher association in our schools. That will be inimical, and it doesn't support this loudy idea of lively mind project as I witnessed in the region. Mr. Speaker, finally, we do have very germane policies in our early childhood school programs. And I would have thought that whilst we inject funds or budget allocations into the education sector, the formative years of our children are so crucial that we ought to ensure that the teaching materials and the hardcore structure or school buildings that are required at that level are provided. I would have thought that that policy, the early childhood education policy framework, must be implemented across the country, and in doing so ought to be mindful for the lack of infrastructure in both the urban and urban areas, which is really affecting the public schools, because then the private sector takes over, they provide the needed infrastructure, and we do know that that comes at a cost. So as a country, we must be intentional in providing the needed infrastructure at that level, because too many private players have entered into that, and it does not come cheap. And so I want to call on this House to ensure that when we are looking at the educational budget, we focus at the lower level and ensure that our children are getting the foundation for the future continuous learning that they require. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity to add my voice to this statement.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to add my voice to this nice statement. Mr. Speaker, I happen to be a executive member of education, and I was invited for Lovely Minds program in the Sang, let me say, Myong district. I participated in their program, and I experienced, just as my colleague, because he was there, an agenda ministry. The Education Select Committee was invited, and the agenda was also invited to participate in that workshop, and then we had a field trip. So I will not go to his tangent anymore, but to congratulate Lovely Minds for coming up with this project, and to recommend that Minister of Education sits with Lovely Minds and go their example. They have been able to organize teaching learning materials so colorful that attracts the children to always be available. Parents having been trained, as earlier contributors talked about. For me, as an educationist, it goes to catapult the children in learning at home, because the very parents who come to try to school their kids at school voluntarily definitely will not let their children just go about playing without learning. So, Lovely Mind, thank you for that good program. Mr. Speaker, the problem on the ground is the type of infrastructure
that we have at the rural areas. Myong district, for example, where we went to experience their program. And to say, and to add my voice, that, Mr. Speaker, we should urgently look at the capping get fund. We should look at the capping get fund because basic education is being denied its rightful funding. It is being denied its rightful funding because that fund has been capped, Mr. Speaker. That is the only way we can save the lower level education. If not, we will say all the things in this world and we'll end up not going anywhere because the funding is not going. The funds are not being released. Mr. Speaker, we are all in this house, in the budget. Get Fund was supposed to receive not less than 4.8 billion, but because we have capped it, they only ended up getting 1.8 billion. So what amount will they be able to use to support the basic education? EduWatch, Edu African Institute have all come out with their researches, Mr. Speaker. It will interest you to know, in the Bunkurugu Yoyo district alone, not less than 7,000 children cannot even have access to furniture. 7,000, only Bunkurugu Yoyo in the northeast region, Mr. Speaker. 5,403 dilapidated structures in the basic system are wobbling without good schools to attend. So all these lovely minds is trying to do its best at that level. Mr. Speaker, this parliament has the right, the power to influence the capping of Get Fund. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Honourable Suhini, MP for Tamale North, for the statement, and also to appreciate the effort of the NGO in increasing the importance of early childhood in our educational system. Right Honourable Speaker, early childhood is like the foundation laying of a child for a child to grow and become what we expect them to be. So if the foundation is weak, ultimately the structure will not stand properly. I find that we've a lot on the SHS and the tertiary institutions, but put very little emphasis on early childhood training, from creche through kindergarten to primary and through to, in some instances, JHS. The more we do that, the more we alienate our children from being able to be properly equipped to compete in the world in which they are growing. Mr. Speaker, one thing that also I've noticed is when I was growing up, we'll be taught things like a stitch in time saves 9, and then the early bird catches the worm. As produced by the far side, in the rural communities, when I say sentences and I expect them to be able to complete it, they are not able to do that. So there's a need for not just the efforts that this NGO is doing, but also to bring in the creative nature, the creative talents of children at a very early age, so they can build upon it. Reading is not being encouraged anymore in our primary schools, and I find that it is affecting the way in which our children speak, especially when they are growing up in an era where social media and new language, like the slang they speak, the short forms of words being spelled, it's seeping even into their official communication with our officers. When I receive letters from our young people, I'm wondering how they sail through their exams to have their degrees and so on. I'm not suggesting mine is perfect or all of us in this room have perfect ways in which we communicate, but we can see the decline. We can see the decline. It's a systemic, and I think that if it is possible, the NGO should, through Honorable Suhini, who made the statement, engage the Committee on Education, engage them properly so that we see how we can have this intervention in all our constituencies. I'm not sure if I have my constituency, I'll check when I'm done, but from the feedback that I hear in the room, it looks like it's a very good intervention which must be put. Mr. Speaker, one other thing too that we can put into our educational system is the learning of a second and third official language. We are surrounded by French-speaking countries, and I'm embarrassed that I'm MP for Ketu South, which includes Aflau, and I'm not able to communicate fluently in French. Granted that I wasn't born there and I didn't go to school in the community, but it is not part of the rural structure in our educational system for even those of us in that area that share borders with French-speaking countries to maybe exclusively in silos make them part of their curriculum. The world in which we are growing up is narrowing. People are learning Mandarin, people are learning all kinds of foreign languages, but we are still relying only on English and shortchanging ourselves in the process. And so I want to congratulate the maker of the statement and you as well, and to thank you more sincerely for the opportunity to contribute to this discussion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this this discussion, and to commend the maker of the statement, Honorable Soyini, for bringing our attention to this very important topic. Mr. Speaker, there's no doubt that the rural communities face numerous challenges, and education happens to be one of them. They need our attention, and thankfully the NGOs are doing so well in terms of intervention. We have a number of organizations such as Wilgo Project, Qatar Charity, School for Life, Lively Mind, among others. They are doing a lot for our communities in terms of educational support. Some of them are providing infrastructure. Some are providing teaching and learning materials. Some are even building the capacity of teachers. So I want to use this opportunity to commend them highly for the good jobs that they have been doing for this country. Mr. Speaker, I was also part of the committees that embarked on that visitation, oversight visitations. We went to the northern and toured some of the areas that Lively Minds is working. And I must say that what we saw is really commendable. We saw the kind of methodologies they are using, involving parents forming part of the whole process is highly commendable. It provides the opportunity for even parents to be able to learn in the process. And I think that gives them the opportunity to be able to support them when the children are at home. Mr. Speaker, that methodology is so important that Ghana Education Service should consider integrating that into the curriculum, just like we have benefited from complementary education from School for Life. This will be very important if we can incorporate, Mr. Speaker. One critical thing that I feel rural communities they face with education training. It is sad, Mr. Speaker, to notice that you visit some rural communities at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and some of the teachers will still not have arrived to teach. And by 1:32, you get there and you will not find any teacher. So you look at the contact hours, averagely, sometimes it's about 2-3 hours. This is so sad, Mr. Speaker, to look at this and step up monitoring, because that will be very important in enhancing our educational quality. Mr. Speaker, Facilities is also another issue. Previous speakers have alluded to poor infrastructure in rural communities. This is very real, Mr. Speaker. In fact, if you visit a number of the rural schools, including schools from my constituency, you will find that a lot of the students, they lie on their tummies to write. And the teachers don't have furniture to sit on. So it is really very critical that we have to look at it as a country and see how we can deal with this issue. Because this is critical. The foundation is the backbone. If we don't get the foundation right, Mr. Speaker, we can be sure that we are going to build on very weak foundation. And I don't think that weak foundation can stand the test of time, Mr. Speaker. So I wouldn't want to speak too much. I just to end here by commending livelihood minds for the kinds of things that they are doing for this country. We encourage them to do more, and we are happy that they are at our parliament to witness proceedings and then to see how we are handling the state that has been made in their name. I am very grateful for the kind of appealing to them for more support. They shouldn't hesitate to extend some of their infrastructure to the good people of Komongo constituency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm most grateful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by our senior colleague, Honorable Soini. Mr. Speaker, it is often said that you cannot put something on nothing. And there is a lot of reason in that statement. We cannot have a successful basic education if we don't take care of our preschools and our early childhood education. You cannot have a successful senior high school if you have not taken care of the base. You cannot have a successful university education when you have not yet taken care of the base. Mr. Speaker, even though we are focusing attention today on rural communities, let me say emphatically that very unfortunately, most of the experiences of these rural communities find expression right here in the city. I am MP for Medina constituency, and right within the Medina constituency, the changes that we are talking about here, prevail. In fact, the lack of adequate funding, adequate infrastructure, and sometimes even highly qualified personnel still persist. Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, in almost all basic schools in Medina constituency, I had to now lead water for all projects just to ensure that we have potable water for these young children so they can have water just to attend school. So when I'm happening in Medina constituency, then I wonder what could be the fate of other constituencies. Mr. Speaker, today in the chamber was precept staff, 3 basic schools from Medina. They just went out of the school. That was one of the schools that was recently a beneficiary of this water for all project. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying this because when you look at the constitutional injunction, I think that as a people, we are not treating our people right. It is good for us to commend institutions like Lively Mind and several other NGOs who are coming in to support. But Mr. Speaker, the primary obligation on the state to ensure that all levels of education are catered for, Mr. Speaker, lies rightly on the executive. And so, Mr. Speaker, I think time has come for the executive to close attention to this. We are so quick to sign all the international statutes, international laws, and human rights, and international law protecting right to education. When you look at even our own constitution and all the beautiful provisions that we have when it comes to rights. Unfortunately, the duty bearers have failed on this duty to ensure that our basic schools have adequate funding, adequate infrastructure, and also very trained personnel that can take care of our basic schools. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to the statement. It's my hope that, as has been argued earlier on or commented earlier on, the capping of the GET fund would stop so that we'll have adequate funding for for basic education in Ghana. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute.
I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Let me also take the opportunity to congratulate my friend who brought this matter up in the statement, honorable member for Tamale North. Mr. Speaker, in talking about early childhood education, I'm particularly touched because in 2019, Ken Education Service appointed me as early education ambassador. Since been, I'm not sure I've been replaced yet. But in all those circumstances, Speaker, we find that so far the discussion has been more on infrastructure. It is critical that we have good and child infrastructure to be able to provide early childhood education. But I want us to understand that there will never be enough infrastructure for education because the population keeps increasing. You build one for the Kwai Trafo where I grew up. In the next 5 years, the number of children in that community will outnumber the infrastructure. So our focus should be continually investing in education. I checked with Get Fund and they report that in the last 7 years, they have constructed about 1,430 basic school buildings. That will never be enough. In the next 5 years, they will need extra. But for me, Mr. Speaker, the most important thing we should focus on is what are we teaching kids at that age? What is the cost of the education, what we call early childhood education? Mr. Speaker, elsewhere, that is the period they start teaching the children the values they want young children to grow up with, the values of integrity, the values of honesty, nationalism. Mr. Speaker, I was not fortunate. I don't remember a nursery school. I remember class 1. So I'm not sure whether I went to nursery. Well, my class 1 teacher died recently. I found out her number and called her. She was so excited. But she died recently. But what is it that we want the children to start imbibing? Period. They learn to write, identify numbers, make figures. But at that point, I'm convinced that if you start telling them the values we want them to have as members of the community, as good citizens, they will never do those things. I've always insisted that in some communities, the things they learn at that nursery level, yes, if it's not yours, then the children respond, don't take it. Teaching them against stealing. If you don't know, don't say it. If you didn't see, don't say it. Those are the values at this stage. The rhymes live with the children and form the values of their future life. I think we should concentrate on building those things. I think it is time to evaluate the content of nursery education. Many young children now learn some of the rhymes that truly have very little relevance. I went to London to see the Queen. Yes, they may never go to London to see the Queen. But black sheep, what's the meaning of that? That's from the Honorable Chief Whip. But Mr. Speaker, if they learned the things that will become their everyday life, I'm sure they will grow up with it. And I encourage us to assist the Ministry of Education, suggest things that will enable early childhood education, build values for the future. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Well, yes, because you are the Deputy Minister of Education, because you are my youngest son, just because you are the Deputy Minister, I would have denied you the opportunity, but I will give it to you. Because you know the tradition, that when the old man finishes bathing, The water is what? I'll give you the opportunity. Then after that, I'll give you people a test to see how many of you will pass this exam. Yes, Deputy Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your magnanimity in giving me the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by my good friend and respected colleague, Honorable Suhini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Even though the first Deputy Speaker has finished the last bath, has managed with your magnanimity to leave me some droplets, which I can manage around my feet. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of the statement for highlighting a very important aspect of the education system, which occupies a key priority of this government's policy, and to commend Lively Minds for the creditable way in which they have implemented their intervention, their play-based pedagogy across 8 regions and about 46 districts across the country, and to highlight the importance of early childhood education. Mr. Speaker, the foundation of every system is paramount. And if you're able to get the foundation right, then whatever structure you build upon it is sure to be sustainable. Medical experts have indicated that 90% of the brain development of every child takes place within the first 5 years. And therefore, early childhood education is so important at targeting those formative years that goes with their brain development. In Ghana, a lot of strides have been made in early childhood education. In the landscape around sub-Saharan Africa indicates that many countries have not even mainstreamed the first 2 years of their pre-primary education. And so that is done not as part of the mainstream education system, but since 2008 have mainstreamed pre-primary education. And since then have repositioned it. Age enrollment campaign was done. And all this went in line with the early childhood education policy, which was launched and further reviewed with the support of UNICEF. So since then, we've been able to see many children getting enrolled into kindergarten to enjoy the first crucial 2 years of education between 4 and 5 years to prepare them for lifelong learning opportunity. Having said that, one other stride the government has made is having attained pre-primary gross enrollment of 100%, a feat that many countries have not been able to achieve. And it's significant to note that Ghana has attained pre-primary enrollment gross of 100%. It is so significant to note that children learn by play. Children learn effectively when they are engaged, when there are activities they go through realizing they are learning. So whilst they are playing some games, whilst they are speaking, whilst they are engaging, they are activated to be able to grasp whatsoever concepts that their teachers will be imparting onto them. So when we introduced the standard-based curriculum, we had the partnership of Ghana Education Service, Lively Minds, Saber Education, IPA, Right to Play, and some other notable organizations, UNICEF, who came together and took various aspects of our standard-based curriculum and introduced play pedagogies. Mr. Speaker, this was piloted across many parts of this country, and that saw the training of teachers in the kindergarten sector receiving the kind of training that will position them to be able to engage the learners in the most optimum way. I have had the opportunity to visit to the field, Toulon specifically, one of the beneficiary zones of Lively Minds, and had first-hand information and participated in their play activity. I visited one of the play stations, and Mr. Speaker, it is gratifying to note that parents are involved in that approach. So parents who may not even have had sufficient formal education have been trained sufficiently to be able to support
their learners even at home, with tools that are easy to find and gather in every average home. And so they are involved in setting out play and then going through with their learners. And then when they return to schools, their teachers, also having been trained, continue. It goes from running around, and they've incorporated some of our traditional local plays when we're young back into the classroom, both indoors and outdoors. Mr. Speaker, significantly, the improvement in education outcomes in the intervention schools is very significant. And that has encouraged us at Ministry of Education to harmonize all the play-based pedagogies and interventions that we are implementing with Ghana Education Service leading the charge and with eminent support of Lively Minds. And I must here that Lively Minds is operating under the auspices of this government, specifically under the auspices of Ghana Education Service, and is an approved NGO that has been mandated with certain zones and regions to ensure that this play-based are implemented, together with safer education, right to play, and IP. In order to sustain the gains made and to ensure that what has worked is sustained and even scaled across the country, we have put together all these approaches into a manual, which we launched some 6 months ago. Mr. Speaker, we are discussing with the partners and the funding community, and they are very excited about the scale plan and the proposal that we pitched to find a way to ensure that the 48,000 teachers within the KG sector in our country, and even including the non-state actors, specifically to main private school actors, to also get just within private schools, to also get trained in this effective play-based pedagogy that we are implementing across the country. And that discussion is going on. One of the challenges we've had in this country is that oftentimes we see so many NGOs operating in silos, and therefore the kind of harmonized impact we all in their interventions is not maximized. So taking a cue from that trend, we have managed to harmonize all the players within the play-based pedagogy sector and harmonize their approaches to the same. And now we are going to scale to ensure that in every classroom in this country, whether public school or private school, the first 2 years of their learning should be play-based pedagogy. Having said that, it's also instructive to remark on the concern raised on infrastructure and to indicate that over 1,207 infrastructure have been developed and have been constructed across the country since 2017. And many of these were targeted at early childhood education and foundational learning. Mr. Speaker, recently we saw the President of this country, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, commissioning state-of-the-art kindergarten, far away from the traditional way we know kindergartens are constructed in this country, smart classrooms with LED interactive boards, with the kind of setup that is comparable to any advanced country, being commissioned in Kwabenya. And there are 40 of these state-of-the-art smart kindergarten blocks underway across the country. And subject to availability of funds, that is the direction of the ministry, that new kindergartens will be constructed and given that facelift, and even in public schools, free of charge. If we had the benefit of seeing the pictures, it is most gratifying. So, Mr. Speaker, we would want to assure this country that the education of our young learners, particularly the first 2 years of their education, is crucial, and we at Ministry of Education are very much prioritizing this first 2-year journey, and will do everything in partnership with our development partners, and in particular Lively Minds, to scale up the approaches that are already working, to give them the necessary support they require to ensure every learner is developed. In conclusion, in the year 2015, An early grade reading assessment was conducted across our country around P2, grade 2, P2 learners, still on foundational learning, on numeracy and literacy. And that is an international tool that...
Honorable Deputy Minister, if you want to make a statement of government policy on education, we'll grant you the space. But this, to make comments, a statement, please. By that time, we'll get the opportunity for members to make comments on that, your statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
You are abusing my magnanimity.
Taking a cue from that and not exhausting your magnanimity, which you've already given, I would want to thank you and the maker of the statement, and to assure that together we'll continue in our early childhood education. I thank you.
Honorable members, I've been informed that one of my colleagues, brothers, and friend who has invested so much in education, in the development of human resource, is present where he is at the gallery. He's already been acknowledged, but it's important that I give this information that the Honorable Alhaji Mohammed Harun, popularly called Cambodia. Cambodia was the first member of parliament for the constituency who called Chogo Tishigu. Now they have brofalized it and are now referred to it as Tamale North, where the of the statement is from. He is the representative now. Honorable Alhaji Mohammed Harun is an award-winning educationist. He is still very much investing in education. I'm told he's here. It's proper that he's over there, waving on top there. He's quite a tall, lanky man, very strong, and when he was in parliament, really, he was a force to reckon with in those early days. Congratulations, my brother, and keep on doing the good works. I just want to do a small exercise to see whether I can identify the generations you fall into. Whether you are part of the baby boomers, or you are the alpha generation, or the Gen Z. And so I'll start some statements and I expect you to complete them. One is, talking cannot buy a horse. Penny-wise, the alpha people don't know these things. And for the Gen Z, when you say it, they just gaze at you. No smoke without I heard in her contribution, Honorable Ifa Gomashi, the stated some. But it's important for us in this country to redefine what we mean by education. I think many of you have focused on formal education, going to school. But you all know the inventor, Thomas Edison, who dropped out from school in the basic, at the basic, at that time, primary 6. But in the world of invention, he is one of the icons, if not the leader, because his registered intellectual property of about 2,000 inventions. And one of the critical ones is what we are all enjoying, which is what? The electric bulb. That's Thomas Edison. And he got that education from the mother. who was unelected, but managed to educate the child to reach that level. So education is not just by rote learning in school. You also will recollect our own iconic William Jacob Say, who dropped out from education in Cape Coast because the father, a carpenter, could not pay. But he was the one who crafted coffins to earn money to the extent that he became the first millionaire in Ghana, then Gold Coast. And these are the people that are used to fund the deputations to go and represent the group in the UK. William Jacob Say. And you recall the lady Nadede of Accra. I think many of you know that a leader is complete. A leader is, and now Gen Zs are better than you. A leader is a reader. A leader is a reader. And so as leaders, you all learn to read. That's where you get all of these things. So now I know that we have a lot of big members here. A few from the Alpha generation, and we don't have Gen Zs in Parliament. With this, we'll go on to the next statement. Leadership, which one is the next? That one will take just a few minutes. What you did was a very topic. That's why we took quite a long time on it. Yes, the next statement is?
The next statement is Honorable Gisela's statement on forts and castles.
Forts and castles. This is a statement to be delivered by Honorable Gisela Tete Chui, the Member of Parliament for Awutu Senya constituency.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to make this important statement and to highlight an issue of immense importance to my constituency, to the tourism industry, central region, and Ghana as a whole. Mr. Speaker, as a young lady who grew up in Cape Coast, one of Ghana's most historic cities, I came to a realization that the Cape Coast Castle became the most popular place for educational trips, where foreign visitors, especially African Americans, come to visit when they were in Ghana. In a similar light was the Elmina Castle, which was the first European slave trading post in all of sub-Saharan Africa. And so from a young age, the horrific stories of the slave trade were etched into my memory. I became familiar with a few more of the monuments which have been left as evidence of the transatlantic slave trade and the first European interactions built along the coast of Ghana. These are the foundations of heritage tourism in the central region. Mr. Speaker, popular history records that there were about 100 trade forts, 100 trade lodges, forts and castles stretched between Keta in the east and Axim in the west before the 19th century. Their functions varied from temporary accommodation, trading posts, administrative centers, military garrisons, and slave depots for a number of European merchants, notably the Portuguese, Danes, Dutch, and English. Many have since vanished. Today, 28 forts and castles in Ghana, now managed by the Ghanaian Museums and Monuments Board, which enjoy some level of institutional attention and protection, as they have been inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List since 1978. The rendition of Ghana's political history, administration, education, religion, healthcare, and even urban architecture has its roots in these historical monuments. Right Honourable Speaker, the forts and castles are at different levels of wholeness. Some are abandoned ruins, others have been encroached upon, others exposed in urban settings, have been used as offices of administration for prisons and the police service. Some are in relatively good condition. Old
museums of value and historical relevance. Despite the historic importance of the forts and castles, not enough attention by government efforts and funding is given to see to their full preservation of each and every one of them, and by extension, their touristic and heritage value. The Central Region alone has 2 castles and 15 forts. The Cape Coast and Elmina castles are key anchors in the primary tourist hub of the Central Region due to their importance, accessibility, and location. Since the 1990s, they have benefited from various programs under the Central Region Development Commission, CEDICOM. Tourism potential of the Central Region was highlighted and upscaled. The Kakum National Park, for instance, an ecotourism project, was developed into a notable tourist destination in the region as a complement to the castles that gained focus as a center of the African diaspora tourist activity supported by PANAFEST. This has been sustained by various government programs such as recently the Year of Return and Beyond the Return. However, Mr. Speaker, government hasn't yet considered the full potential of other forts and castles as a fulcrum of heritage and tourism for other communities along the coast. I therefore bring to the attention of the Ministry of Tourism, UNESCO, and other related partners in tourism that some of the forts and castles indeed are known to have a touristic value if harnessed properly, and efforts should be directed to maximize these potentials. Mr. Speaker, my constituency, Senya West, in the Central Region, is fortunate to have Fort Good Hope, situated in Senya Breku, 5.4 kilometers out of Accra. It was the last fort built in the Gold Coast, built by the Dutch in the 17th century. According to the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board website, it was described as one of the finest forts on the coast. Its proximity to the eastern region was very advantageous for its trade activities and objectives, and was believed to have been the trade fort associated with the gold trade with the Achim, and it was later expanded to accommodate the enslaved. Mr. Speaker, the fort sits in an area best described as the first tourism hotspot west of Accra. This hotspot contains tourist attractions such as beautiful beaches, hotels, resorts, and sports camps shared between Goma Fete and Senya Breku. Today it is habitable and is used minimally as a guest facility. However, this is not enough. With the much needed attention from government, using the preservation and conservation of the fort as a focal point, the boost in the local economy. A comprehensive plan drawn for the fort to develop a museum of mercantile activities to display trade, life in an 18th century fort, a shop, and using the courtyard for temporary artist exhibitions, for example, would attract visitors to the area. Besides this, there is a sizable land outside the fort which can beautifully be landscaped to be of much more benefit to the communal place of disposal of waste or household activities. This would bring changes in youth employment in the creative and leisure industry, as well as raise interest in education. It would bring the additional revenue to the community and to the state institutions that have oversight of its operations. Mr. Speaker, I conclude by making that government should turn its attention to the areas of serious preservation and conservation of other forts and castles, besides the big revenue generating ones in Cape Coast and Elmina. There are quite a few, like Fort Good Hope, which draws in a number of foreign visitors, but high local patronage has the potential for more. Mr. Speaker, I have established the Friends of Fort Good Hope to raise awareness and interest in these important matters. I can assure this House that the community of Senya Breku, the Awutu Senya District Assembly, and myself as a Member of Parliament are ready to be a part of any developmental plan for the architecture of the fort and its surroundings, conservation measures to be put in place, restructuring of management and implementation of the management plan of the fort by Ghana Museums and Monuments Board, which will be of mutual economic benefit to all community stakeholders involved, the Central Region, the country as a whole, and to the African diaspora. In this country, each fort has its own unique story to tell. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members will take a few comments. Yes, Honorable Dafiemapo.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the statement, very, very important statement brought to the attention of the House by my sister from Otu Senior. Mr. Speaker, the importance of forts and castles to a nation such as ours is not merely for its economic or commercial value in terms of the tourism inflows that it attracts, also because of the historical symbolism that they represent for nearly 500 years of European colonial influence, moving from mercantilism to slavery, thereafter self-rule. Mr. Speaker, forts and castles are dotted along the entire coastline of Africa. You can speak of Fort Jesus, for instance, in Mombasa, which the Arab built to secure the port of Mombasa to help improve and increase trade at the seas between the Arab world and the coast of Africa, eventually leading to serious upsurge in slavery and trade influenced by the Portuguese thereafter. Mr. Speaker, leaving the generals and moving back home, along the West African coast, you can count forts from the coast of Gorée, Rufisque in Senegal, to ports in Liberia, Freetown, and Ivory Coast and Ghana. Mr. Speaker, between Shama and Keta, we have over 47 forts and castles. Mr. Speaker, out of this number, about 22 are in some good condition, have some maintenance for purposes of attracting tourists. Mr. Speaker, we can mention Fort Apollonia at Benin. We can speak of Fort St. Anthony at Axim, Fort Cross Frederick, Mr. Speaker, at Princeton Town, Fort Meta Cross, Dieskov, Fort Orange at Sekendi, Fort St. Sebastian, Mr. Speaker, at Shama. The fort, Mr. Speaker, is located at British Commander. Fort St. Jago, Mr. Speaker, is located at Elmina. The Castle of St. George, Mr. Speaker, again is located at Elmina. Then we have the Elmina Castle itself. Then we have the Cape Coast Castle, located in Cape Coast. We have Fort Victoria, also located in Cape Coast. And of course, Fort William, also located in Cape Coast. Mr. Speaker, we have another fort called Fort William, located at Anomabu. Then we have Fort Amsterdam, Mr. Speaker, located at Abanzi. Mr. Speaker, we have Fort Patience, Mr. Speaker, is located at Apam. Then we have Fort Hope, Mr. Speaker, is located at Senyabreku. Mr. Speaker, then we have Fort James, Mr. Speaker, which is located right not far from here at Jamestown. Then we have Fort Asha, Speaker, located in Asha Town in Accra. Mr. Speaker, then we have our own almighty, the Christian Broadcaster, Mr. Speaker, which for a very long time served as the seat of government in this country, located at Osu, about a kilometer from here. Mr. Speaker, then we have Fort Fredericksburg, which is located at Old Igbo. Then Fort Presenstein, located in my own homeland in Keta. Mr. Speaker, those that have fallen into ruins, that perhaps nothing can be done about them include Fort Dorothea, Fort Fredericksburg, Fort Vernon, Fort Nassau, Fort Little Fort, Fort Augustaburg, close in Teaching here, Mr. Speaker, and lastly, Fort Bartenstein. Mr. Speaker, these monuments have a certain prestige that as a people we need to keep them for historical importance. But let me conclude by saying that even the legal framework, Speaker, underpinning the importance of maintaining them appears anachronistic, old-fashioned, Mr. Speaker. The NLCD, that's NLC Decree 387, which was passed in 1969, which gave the mandate to the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board to take charge in maintaining these monuments, appears to require some review, Mr. Speaker. The EI, the only existing EI, executive instrument, which also adds to the framework, which is EI 29, passed as far back as 1973, I have looked at it, Mr. Speaker, also deserves some review. An important matter that the honourable member has brought, which attention he's brought to the House, we need to consider reviewing the legal regime governing the mandate to maintain these forts. Mr. Speaker, Cape Coast, the Cape Coast Castle, the Elmina Castle, the Christianborg Castle, amongst others, stand tall among the monuments dotted south of the Sahara. The Cape Coast one was built as far back as 1482. And Mr. Speaker, history, preservation of history is so important that we ought not to allow these forts and castles to deteriorate and fall into ruination. Mr. Speaker, with these words, I will urge Mr. Speaker, humbly urge the relevant committee to consider looking at paying some visitation to the sites to come up with that may eventually lead to legislation on the matter, to reviewing the legal regime regarding the maintenance of these forts and castles. Mr. Speaker, with these words, I thank you for the opportunity.
May I give it to Honorable Jifa Gomashi.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Speaker, I thank my sister Gisela for writing the statement on our forts and castles and bring it to fore once again, because this is the second time I think she's making the statement. And I appreciate it because this is one sector that has the potential of creating a lot of jobs for our young people. The tourism sector in our country holds the key to creating many more opportunities if we will only take it more seriously than we have. I'm happy and I feel blessed that when the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts was set up in 2013 by President John Dramani Mahama, I was lucky to be made the Deputy Minister. One of the responsibilities that were given to us was for us to see a legal framework within which we could promote and develop the sector. So quickly we approached UNESCO office in Ghana, and with their support and also through Parliament, we were able to ratify 7 UNESCO conventions for the domain to be able to rate its progress in making tourism, if not the second earner of our GDP. We thank the Parliament of Ghana for that application, but I think that between then and now, we've had a lot of time, so much time, to move that discussion forward and to see how UNESCO and its agencies can be approached so that they can support the restoration of all these forts and castles. They hold an integral part of our history. If we allow climate change, in my case, tidal waves and so on, to take away these heritage sites, we are doing ourselves a lot of disservice. Mr. Speaker, I recall that as a young lady, when I worked in the National Commission on Culture, Effa Sutherland, blessed memory, brought Panafest to bear in this country. And Panafest was a Pan-African festival that brought African Americans from all over the world into this country. I learned so much from that experience. It's gone down, but I appreciate the fact that under this current government, we've had also the return of return, which is Panafest renamed of a sort. But the essence of it is that if people want to come to our country, they are coming because there's something unique about us that they want to experience. It could be the ecotourism, it could be the fourth sector, it could be our food, it could be our dance, and so on. Why we are not putting as much energy behind this is still a surprise to me. I think that we need to re-engage ourselves in what we do with what we have. It's strange that when Panafest, NAFAC, and all these, the communities in which these are done, there's a little bit of disconnect. They look at it as if we are using the place only as a venue. So, for example, Panafest will happen in Cape Coast, in the castle, and the community itself is not involved. They appreciate the fact we come there. They are able to come and sell their water, their food. But beyond that, there's no real connection. And until we re-engineer that conversation, have and give us Ghanaians the reason why it is important for us to maintain what we have and the education of what happened in the past. Once it doesn't hit us and get into our spirit, we will not appreciate the value of restoring these heritage sites. And we are shooting ourselves in the foot. Mr. Speaker, recently, as recent as December 2023, there's a slavery museum that has been reopened in Ketu South, in the community called Hajranau. This was made possible by Gerda Henkel Stiftung, who brought the funding. If we can engage many more agencies and NGOs and people who believe in protecting our heritage, the world heritage, which is our contribution to the world, we are able to approach such agencies. I'm sure that there will be, we can find some funding to restore what we are losing. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the rains are about to start again, and I felt a lot of our heritage sites are going to suffer again. I know that the ones in Qatar stand the risk of being lost completely if we don't take the necessary steps to address the tidal waves and the effects of the climate change that we're experiencing. It is important that you, as usual, in the fashion that I have seen you do since I've been in this parliament, that you put your voice behind this so that the ministry in charge will do what they're supposed to do to save our heritage. I'm also a member of the ECOWAS Committee on the Restoration and the Reparation of Stolen Artifacts for Africa. And the work that other countries are doing is yielding fruits, benefits that we haven't experienced. I'm glad that the Ashanti region received some things that supposedly have been loaned to them, which is truly annoying. But it's a step in the right direction, and we should build on it. And on that note, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this brilliant statement by Honorable Gisela. Thank you.
I'm most grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, let me also commend the Honourable Gisela Tete Abutui for this very important statement. Mr. Speaker, the forts and castles of our country represent a very important history which we always have to keep alive, have to tell all generations. Perhaps, but for the forts and castles, the dark era of slavery would have been denied by those who seek to deny and consistently downplay what the race was taken through, how we were dehumanized, how we were treated like chattels, and how people were fought. And they came for the brightest, the strongest, the healthiest, and took us away to develop cosmopolitan Europe and America. But for these forts and castles, that history, painful, agonizing past, will have been forgotten. So it is a very, very, very significant part of our existence that everything must be done to protect that heritage. And I'm not surprised that the UNESCO has identified some of these forts and castles as UNESCO heritage sites. But Mr. Speaker, as the maker of the statement has rightly observed, when you visit these sites, most of them are in ruins. They are decrepit. They have been allowed to just be in total disarray. A lot of history has been allowed over time to be wiped away. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow that, particularly at a time when, Mr. Speaker, a number of African leaders and Pan-Africanists are agitating for reparation. The Jews were paid reparation for the Holocaust. We have never been paid reparation. Some of us support reparation. A number of European countries are only now acknowledging and apologizing to Africans for the slave trade. So, Mr. Speaker, to advance the reparation, to advance our history, to advance the fact that a lot of harm has been caused us, we need to make sure we preserve these forts and castles. It is also important to highlight the fact that these forts and castles serve as closure to a lot of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. A lot of them do not know about the continent. They haven't really been taken through the journey of no return. So it is these forts and castles that allow them to relink and to rediscover their ancestral roots with the continent. And that is why, if you have observed, a number of the high-profile Americans who have visited Ghana in recent times, I recall President Barack Obama, the first place he wanted to visit is the Cape Coast Castle. And he went there and traced his roots. His wife, Michelle Obama, did same. Very recently, the first Vice President of African descent in the United States of America, Excellency Kamala Harris, she also came, and the most important place to her, I heard her say that herself, where she really has longed to visit, is our castle, the forts and castles of Ghana. And she traced her roots, and she says that it was a moment of liberation for her. So, Mr. Speaker, we cannot downplay the significance of these forts and castles to the diaspora. If you observe the year of most of those who come, they want to go to the forts and castles. I was there recently, Mr. Speaker. I think that we need to really pay attention to maintaining these UNESCO heritage sites and these forts and castles, which are a part of our history. We will not succeed in the fight for reparation if we don't maintain the forts and castles. And Mr. Speaker, the whole effort
to bring back our continent, the diaspora, to join us to reconstruct our continent will not succeed if we don't place the value and the importance that we must put on these forts and castles. And Mr. Speaker, talking about tourism, we know that in 2022, official data reveals that the tourism sector earned us $3.4 billion. Mr. Speaker, that is significant. $3.4 billion, very significant. We attracted not less than 620,000 tourists. So, Mr. Speaker, this is an important matter. And if you look at how this leads to job creation, we are all complaining about growing unemployment. The population and housing says that the current unemployment figure is 13.6%, about 14%. You know, and if you look at those between the ages of 15 to 35, we are told it's even 35%. So, Mr. Speaker, to address the unemployment challenge we are facing, this investment in our forts and castles, renovating them, putting them at the pedestal that they must be, will help us to create jobs. That is why, as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I still do not understand why the current president will spend a colossal $58 million on a national cathedral, which has turned out to be the world's most expensive pit. He says he wanted to boost tourism. I still cannot understand how people will leave Israel, the temple Israel, where Jesus Christ walked, Jerusalem, and all those places, and come to Accra for Christian tourism, for Christian pilgrimage. That suddenly, if we build some kind of a Kaaba here in Accra, Muslims won't go to Mecca any longer. They would prefer. It's mind-boggling. I can't understand some of these concepts. You know, imagine what $58 million could have done for our forts and castles. Just imagine, for a second, $58 million. So sometimes these conceptualizations, what goes into policy considerations, I really wonder, you know, who are those, you know, taking these decisions? Who are those engaging in this analysis? Are we looking at the number? Are we looking at our history, our heritage, who we are, our identity? You know, so, Mr. Speaker, let us return to basics. Let's reprioritize what really matters. Let's stop these internal contradictions. You know, you want a return people in the diaspora to come to Ghana, you want to revive our culture, our heritage, and at the same time, we want to bring Jerusalem to Accra. It's just contradictory, and it won't take us anywhere. So, Mr. Speaker, I commend the Honorable Gisela Tete for this statement. These are the statements that we really have to ponder over, and these are the areas we must be investing when it comes to tourism. And I do hope that we will all honor her call and put the right investments, put our money where our mouth is, and revive our forts and castles towards the forward march of a Pan-Africanist republic. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minority Chief Whip.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity, and also want to thank our colleague, my senior colleague when we were at school, Architect Gisela Tete, for this statement. Mr. Speaker, I think this statement should remind us of some of the we are leaving behind. Mr. Speaker, the statement actually perfectly captures the need for us to pay attention to part of our history that we are all leaving behind. Mr. Speaker, I want to make just these few comments. For instance, the UNESCO identifies all these as important structures of cultural values. But Mr. Speaker, it is quite surprising that while somebody, an international body, recognizes these places for us, we sit and wait for UNESCO to provide resources for us. It is not a job necessarily. Yeah, UNESCO will support. But I'm not sure whether London Wall in London which attract also a lot of the British public who should be waiting for UNESCO to do that. Because it's of value to you, it actually captures part of your history. It is upon us to make the necessary investment to prolong the lives of these things. That is why I agree with Honorable Okujeto that we should be spending our money appropriately, because we have things in this country that already exist that actually can, or already shows that it attracts people from other places. And I believe we should pay attention to this. Mr. Speaker, why should we do this? The forts and castles hold part of history. Mr. Speaker, how many Ghanaians actually understand what the slave trade was about? We only understand that somebody came to one of the places of the few of them and probably caught some of our great-grandparents and took them abroad. But Mr. Speaker, was it really the case? Did the slave traders go to Adaklu, go to the places and catch the people? Is it possible that our own people assemble the people for them to take away? Is it possible? So, the parts of the history that is missing, we need to trace it. For all you know, we were complacent. Maybe some black people or Africans actually profited from slave trade. Maybe my great-grandparents. I don't know. So we should be able to trace part of that. So culturally, Mr. Speaker, these forts and castles are places of culture that we must not leave to rot. Mr. Speaker, if other people who went through that, maybe let's take the Jews, because of what they went through, even in lands that were not originally, it's not originally their lands, they forced those countries to build monuments to remind the world of what do you call it, a Holocaust in Israel, so that nobody forgets about that. How many places in Africa can we say that we have documented whole part of this history firmly that everybody can understand? Well, I don't think there are enough of those places. Mr. Speaker, as an architect, I think these forts also hold architectural values. Mr. Speaker, if you trace any of these forts and castles, their construction use appropriate technology. Majority of them use materials available in the locality. That is the only way they survived. Many of them were not built with cement from Holland. They use appropriate technology. The stones around, the clay and everything around. How many of these places can we say that informs the way we build in this country? Think they hold architectural and engineering values that we can learn from. If you go to even the castle just behind us here, you will notice many of the roofs of those buildings were never done with metal, because those days it wasn't very common to roof your building with metals. So they found ways of roofing them, and for almost some of them actually survived. Today, including this chamber, there's nothing about it that can tell you whether this building is unique to Ghana. The coat of arms, maybe, the Adinkra symbols in the kente cloths and other things. What exactly in this chamber makes it unique to Ghana? Very difficult. In terms of our culture, architecture, very little. It's like this building could be in the middle of London, if not because of the Adinkra symbols and other things. But are we not supposed to be doing these things to show the real identity of the Ghanaian? I think it should be. Mr. Speaker, I feel this statement is just a reminder that there's much to what we are as a people, and the more we can hold part of this history and prolong them, the better it is for us to hold who we are in terms of everything. I don't believe that we are less off in terms of technology, as you said just recently when you were testing us, in terms of technology and everything. I also want to remind us that sometimes when we speak and talk about tourism and others, sometimes we actually feel that people come to this country because there's something very unique about us. But that uniqueness is not too much unique about us. Mr. Speaker, there are countries with 1,000 or 2,000 waterfalls. People don't know. Countries in the world that have got 1,000 waterfalls. So why is somebody actually visiting that particular waterfall in Ghana. There must be something unique about it. And it's really documented to get the Argentinian, who probably have over 200 waterfalls in this country, that there's something unique about a waterfall in this country. As for the hospitality, yes, we say Ghanaians are very hospitable. But we have also visited other countries that people are equally hospitable. All I'm saying is that that hospitality that we talk about must be unique to us. Is it that it's very unique about the Ghanaian culture, the Ghanaian hospitality? Let that be documented, and so that we can attract people. Honorable Sami talked about over 600,000 people that visited Ghana, which is good. But what about having a target to make it 2 million people? Could that increase employment in that services? But Mr. Speaker, the last one, since we are talking about tourism, the hotels in this country, when the people come, you will realize that when they write their reviews, the quality of hotel accommodation in this country compared with the price and other places is just too bad. Today in Accra, the average good hotel room in this around this place is quite expensive. Compare the quality of that to other places that you can pay cheaper. So if we want to attract people into this country in terms of tourism, everybody who spends money on tourism wants the money to stretch as far as possible. If the person can pay that price in another country and have more things to see, why should the person pay that amount of money and see only half of the things in this country? So we all have a lot to do, and I think that maybe when our colleague in charge of tourism appears in this house the next time to read the budget, maybe let's all pay attention to what Gisela is saying. What is government's projection in terms of how we revive these things to create employment and to make country unique? We shouldn't just approve the budget and at the end of the day you see very little about that. And as an industry player, Mr. Speaker, I still believe that we can do a bit more for ourselves. Let the things we build, let the things we wear, let the things we use reflect our specific history and culture, and that can help spur economic growth. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, honorable members, we still have one more statement. But just to say that at least we are making preparation towards establishing a parliamentary museum here in Ghana, which will try to give the parliamentary perspective of all these things about our culture, our heritage, our history. And so work is ongoing on that. By CPC, the conference that we hosted recently, we had as many as 146 parties visiting the Cape Coast Castle just because of the attachment they have to that history. So it's very important that we take some time of good research and invest into those forts and castles, which are very serious heritage, which can earn us green money, clean money without exploitation of our resources. I was wondering whether the tourists are being informed about the celebrated professor in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, around Germany, this professor, who was among the first in Africa, is being celebrated annually. You know, Professor William Amu, his grave is there, unmarked, not locked. Even developing that alone and drawing the attention of the celebrants in parts of the world, they want to come and see where the man came from. But he was so good and he did so many wonderful things for that country. Metaphysics, mathematics, science, we speak so many languages, Japanese, Latin, French, English, Portuguese, Greek, yes. You know, he was a philosopher, he did very difficult subjects, you know, and people marveled at a black young boy that was picked from Gold Coast and taking over there, educated, become such an iconic professor. These are all better than gold that we are mining. But we've ignored all that, chasing the wind, looking for money from people who came and borrowed our money. And they now change things. One of the early ships that came to pick slaves from the Gold Coast was named Jesus. Yes, that was one of the early ships that came down. And you see how they treated religion. And people still refer to Christianity as the white man's religion. It's not true. True. It's our religion. It's been corrupted by the white man. But that is our religion. Original African religion. Yeah, so please, may we move to the last statement, who stands in the name of there's one statement here by Mohammed Ibrahima. Has it read? Not yet. Statement on street hawking in Ghana, an analysis of risk, legal implications, and economic impact by Honorable Zuwaira Mohammed Ibrahima, Member of Parliament for Salaga South constituency. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make this statement. My statement is on street hawking in Ghana, an analysis of risk, legal implications, and its economic impact. Mr. Speaker, street hawking is a prevalent informal economic activity with a significant impact on both hawkers and the society at large. Street hawking has multifaceted aspects and challenges, from the risk it poses to the hawkers themselves and motorists, the legal framework surrounding it, the necessity to provide them with alternative livelihoods, the potential benefits of a regulated environment, and its implications in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, street hawking in Ghana has become a widespread phenomenon driven by factors such as unemployment, poverty, rural-urban migration, and quest for economic survival. This informal economic activity, Mr. Speaker, involves the sale of goods on streets, often without a fixed location or formal licensing. Mr. Speaker, we can identify two main types of hawkers, which are the hawkers that carry their goods or wares in the wheels or on their heads, and the side hawkers who sit with their wares beside the road. Mr. Speaker, street hawkers face numerous risks, including dangers to their own safety and that of motorists. The chaotic nature of street hawking increases the likelihood of accidents, leading to injuries or fatalities. Additionally, obstructing traffic flow, which poses a risk to motorists and pedestrians alike. Mr. Speaker, street hawking poses a lot of danger to engaging in it, especially to children. The effect is alarming and it should be discouraged. Some of these effects include educational deprivation, physical and public health problems, child abuse, and also exposure of children to crime, or they themselves becoming crime victims. Mr. Speaker, the position of the law on street hawking is that it is a legal activity. Indeed, on April 1st, 2011, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly released a new bylaw approved by the local government ministry to arrest persons who engage in street hawking, as well as those who patronize their wares. Per the new bylaws, no one is allowed to sell to a driver or a passenger, thus making street hawking an illegal venture. Mr. Speaker, the Hawkers bylaw passed by the AME on September 1st, 2010, also emphasized that hawkers must ensure that they obtain a license before operating. Thus, a hawker cannot erect stalls or pavements and streets on pavements and streets and should not be an obstruction or impede the free flow of vehicular or human traffic. And they are also prohibited to offer for sale or purchase of merchandise to vehicles, drivers, and passengers. In essence, street hawking in Ghana is addressed in various regulations, including bylaws and national legislation. However, enforcement remains a challenge. This enforcement has to be made a priority in order to forestall many challenges that may occur when street hawkers get knocked down by motorists and street hawkers stealing from motorists their windows, etc. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that there is a need to provide street hawkers with alternative livelihoods.
Member, you may proceed.
The government and non-governmental organizations can play a vital role in providing such alternatives. Mr. Speaker, the introduction and enhancement of skills development programs, vocational training, and entrepreneurship support can empower hawkers to transition into more sustainable and formal economic activity. Mr. Speaker, creating regulated environments for street hawking can mitigate risk and enhance the economic contributions of hawkers. Designated spaces with infrastructure support, waste disposal facilities, and security measures can contribute to a safer and more organized street vending system. The Odona Pedestrian Shopping Mall at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle is one such location. It was opened in 2007 by the AME, functioned as the official hawkers market closest to the Central Business District and to also settle displaced hawkers. Mr. Speaker, we need more of such development, not just in Accra, but nationwide, so that we can get the hawkers off the roads and into secure places for them to trade and make their livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, the phenomenon of street hawking, even though an illegal act, as per our country's laws, has some economic impact on the economy. Street hawking provides activity to many Ghanaians and supports employment generation. It's, however, important that we say to integrate the street hawkers into the formal economy. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, street hawking in Ghana is a complex phenomenon with implications for safety, legal, governance, economic sustainability, and social welfare. Addressing these challenges requires a multifaceted approach that combines effective regulation and enforcement, alternative livelihood opportunities, and a comprehensive understanding of the economic dynamics associated with street hawking. By fostering a balanced and inclusive strategy, Ghana can harness the potential of street hawking while ensuring the well-being of citizens and the overall improvement of the societal fabric. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, another member for China.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the statement being made by Honorable Haji Azuwe, Member of Parliament for Salga South. Mr. Speaker, street hawking involves selling of goods in any form along the street. This may include carbonated drinks, bottled waters, electronics, in fact, Mr. Speaker, name it. The maker of the statement stated categorically that it is an illegal business. But, Mr. Speaker, are we able to stop it as a people? The answer is no. It is an activity that engages a lot of Ghanaians, women, men, young girls as old as 6, 5, and Even toddlers follow their mothers along the street while the mothers hawk. Mr. Speaker, it is prevalent because such people have no jobs, and that is the only way they can survive as a people. And so, Mr. Speaker, once it is an activity that is engaged a lot of Ghanaians, like the maker of the statement said, I think we should find a way of regulating it, a way of making it decent, a way of ensuring that the people who are engaged in the activity are safe, and also ensuring that passerbys are safe, drivers are safe, and in fact, visitors into the country are safe. Mr. Speaker, sometimes when you park by the traffic light, waiting to go when the traffic shows green, the number of hawkers that come around your vehicle, it is undescribable. There's sometimes you see who are very weak, but they come along while they have something that they are selling to you, they are begging at the same time. And so, Mr. Speaker, it is an activity that has come to stay with us, and so the only way we can make it decent is to line it, and probably we have to also let the education go and let people who are engaged in the activity know that the business they are involved in is dangerous. It could end their lives. I'm sure many of them have lost their lives through accidents as they walk along. But maybe because we are not able to keep the data, we are not able to tell how alarming it is. And so, Mr. Speaker, as lawmakers, we know it's illegal. How can we as a people ensure that as a business that is illegal and our people are involved in, how can we make it decent for them so that we take away the illegal and then to ensure that our people earn a living out of it? Then the security officers too, who also walk along the streets and see people hawking, what do they do about it? Because it has become normal. I understand Ghana, but sometimes when you get to the market areas, you see some of the security officers who keep the cities, they come along with fists. Then you hear people shouting, I think they say abaye or something. You see them running. Let's because these are people that are struggling to earn a living. And so if it is illegal and we don't want them to operate or we don't want them to engage in it, what alternative means having them for survival? I don't think we should take so much time, but let me conclude by saying that as people's representatives, as people who make the laws, what can we do to ensure that our people have decent lives while they struggle to make a living? I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to associate myself with the maker of the statement. Street hawking is becoming a nuisance now. I'll be looking at it from the other side of the equation. It's affecting children as well. A lot of children who have also gotten themselves involved in street hawking. Mr. Speaker, I believe that before we're able to curb this situation, it needs a multifaceted approach. We cannot work on street hawking in isolation. We need proper urban planning. We need to enforce our already existing laws. We need to find or zone vending places for them. I believe that the Accra Metropolitan Assembly have done a lot in this. They've tried as much as possible to enact some bylaws, but people are flouting the bylaws. They've also tried to zone places for them to, sell their wares or sell their goods. They are flouting all that. So until such time that we enforce our bylaws and ensure that sometimes we should just set a precedent. It looks like we are all watching unconcerned. The bylaws are there, people are flouting it. But I think that if we start prosecuting not only the street hawkers, but those who also contribute to their wares or to the sale of their goods along the way, we should also be held responsible. Mr. Speaker, a lot of issues may contribute to street hawking. That's my rated. Most of it are not. We talk about poverty, we talk about unemployment. But there are some people who are also employed, but they see street hawking as a second alternative job. There are young people who are supposed to be in school, but they are told their parents push them onto the streets. So if we want to address this issue, we should be looking at it holistically, not only the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, not only the Gender Ministry, local government ministry, but all of us should see it as a collective effort to address this situation. People also see street hawking as a contributing factor to the informal economic sector of economic situation in Ghana, as people operate outside the regulated or the regulations under the formal structures of hawking. Mr. Speaker, street hawking also poses a lot of problems to all of us, both the vendors and the public, in terms of safety. And during the COVID, we saw what happened, but nobody is taking or looking at what is happening now, because we all think that COVID is no more with us. But look at where they sell, look at where they gate. If there's any outbreak of disease, it will affect the vendors and the public as well. I don't know how often the Municipal Health Directorate or the Regional Health Directorate take steps to even look at their health situations, those who sell on the walkways and along the streets. They do just anything that pleases them. So I think that even the Ministry of Health should also be part of this conversation, so that together we can all find a holistic approach to address this issue of street hawking. It also leads to insanitary conditions, like she rightly alluded to, and where the Accra Metropolitan Assembly and all other municipal assemblies, and for that matter, local government and even the Ministry of Sanitation and the government as a whole would have to find money to ensure that our environment is kept clean. But those who litter around, those who sell around, how many of them are even surcharged to ensure that they keep the environment within the area they sell clean? Nobody is following up on them. Mr. Speaker, it's very important that we look at these issues critically. In some parts of the world, even in some parts of West Africa or Africa, you don't often see too many people crowded on the streets or crowded on the walkways or crowded on roadways, selling and hawking along the streets. Probably their laws are working. Probably they have the laws, but we have the laws. Enforcing the laws is a problem. So I think we have to look at this thing holistically and see how best together as a nation we can help address this. Apart from that, I believe they also cause traffic congestions as well. In some cases, may even cause accidents. And in some cases, some people may lose their lives, some may be maimed. So I think that most of them also violate even road regulations. So let's start the conversation again. Let's see how together as a nation, together as a collective effort, we can put our heads together to address this situation. I'm particularly interested in this situation because of the children. Because more than not, we see these young people are future leaders who are also involved in street hawking. Sometimes you see their parents sitting by the other side of the road, even pushing them to sell this or sell that. At the end of the day, you ask yourself, have they even thought about the risk involved? It's becoming a national security issue now. And I think that all creative institutions and ministries, like gender ministry, health ministry, local government, sanitation, all of us should come together to find a lasting solution to this menace. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity, but I think that this whole thing needs a multifaceted approach so that we can enforce our bylaws and provide alternative, if possible, livelihoods for some of the young ones who have also joined the older ones on the street to sell water and other things. And we should also have to improve on our urban planning. We cannot work at this in isolation. It's a collective effort. And I think that my sister has done a good job, and then we'll all add our voice to ensure that we'll be able to curb this situation, because it affects our generations to come. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And for the opportunity to add my voice and to thank my sister, Honorable Zuwera, for coming out with this piece. Mr. Speaker, as already mentioned, I would like to concentrate on the issue, and with your permission, I want to read paragraph 3. Mr. Speaker, we can identify two main types of hawkers, which are the hawkers that carry goods, wares, in the wheels or on their heads, and the side hawkers who sit beside the road. Mr. Speaker, that's where I want to consider my comment on. Mr. Speaker, shares are not only Ghanaians who are doing it. To come to think of it, you see the Nigerians, Burkinabes, other country people who have come to seek refuge here, and they are indirectly begging. Whilst begging, then they try to also join this hawking. The little ones we are talking of, mostly they have identified street hawking as a way of joining the business. Before you see them, toddlers, they carry these shoe shine things, and they also try to sell. Just a way of maintaining themselves on the street. Whichever form of street hawking that we have is not the best, as the statement said. The risk aspect of it is so huge. In the last 2 years, we lost a brother from Kintampo North. A car, a non-registered vehicle, ran into them at 37 hospital, killing 2 on the spot, and a lot of them, other people injured. But unfortunately, our family bore the heaviest shock. The fellow could not even survive, and at the 37 military hospital, we have to carry the body home. A brother that came down from Tampa North to Hawk and to be able to survive. Though, as a member of parliament, our family have experienced this, and the maker said a lot of them get injured and some are killed, just that the numbers we don't know. So this is an evidence I want to provide. Then secondly, I would like to, Mr. Speaker, the paragraph 4. Mr. Speaker, street hawkers face numerous risks, and that is what I'm talking of. So the issue is, we just have to look at it as a nation and see where we went wrong. Poverty is the issue anyway, but must we look on, we must protect the vulnerable by laws. And so, Mr. Speaker, this is where I want to add my voice to critically look at this issue. We shouldn't underrate it because of the risks that are involved. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Very well. That brings us to the end of statement time for today. Yes, leadership, any indications?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I propose that we adjourn to tomorrow.
Yes.
Because, I would have loved to, from the clerks, if the second phase of the workshop on standing orders was starting tomorrow in the evening as check-in, or Saturday, we'd had no further action. Because if we were going to go...
Yesterday I saw memos issued to members. Memos have been issued to members from yesterday, if I recall correctly.
Well, normally they will let us know because we need to reinforce it with colleagues. Because if they are checking in tomorrow, they should have informed whether we should plead with them that we close reasonably well tomorrow so that colleagues can start heading towards Rock City. But as it stands now, don't have... that is a bit...
Well, I'm I'm being advised now that it was discussed at a business committee meeting today, so the announcement will be made tomorrow. But those members who did not attend last week are being issued with individual memos informing them of the arrangements. But tomorrow, as part of the ensuing week's business, the leaders will make the announcement.
So during the business statement tomorrow, the announcement will be made. So the point is, if the check-in is tomorrow, we normally will plead with you so that we do light business tomorrow, so we close in time. Colleagues can start going, but if the announcement will be made tomorrow during business statement, I'm not sure whether, because colleagues would have come to work prepared that from work they are going to Rock City. But if the announcement, well, once they are in control of it, I'm
generally, okay. Any memo is entitled to go as his memo, eating when he can check in. So the general information may be the announcement, but individually, members have been giving memos. Those who did not attend at home, the record does not reflect that you were at home. You've been giving a memo as to when you can check in tomorrow. Yes. Very well. But now we say we'll sit for 5 hours, so I think I'll need a motion to close. So, yes, available leader, your motion for adjournment. Before then, though, kindly permit to acknowledge our visitors from the Bawe Islamic Basic School, who are led by Madam A.D. Chapman Cynthia, the assistant head teacher from Weja Bawe. You all come to Parliament. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we adjourn the House till tomorrow.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I support the motion for adjournment of the House.
Honourable members, the motion for adjournment has been moved and seconded. All in favour of the House adjourning now say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. The House is accordingly adjourned to tomorrow, Friday, 20 February 2024, at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.